That's a great start.
Was you recording?
You've genuinely just started this episode. This is episode 039 of TBC Podcast, brought to you by GRM Daily, presented by myself, Mikill, Pane.
Myself, Rebecca Judd.
Myself, Rene.
We've got a very, very, very special guest. I think our first MBE.
Woo!
I genuinely think this is our first MBE.
I'm going to wet myself with excitement.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that in here.
We do, and we're not going to make an exception today. We always let our guests introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. I am Trevor Nelson. I'm a voice you know really well, I think, because whether you like it or not, you must have heard me on the radio at least once in your lifetime.
Come on.
And and today, actually right now, I should be at the Brit Awards.
You should indeed.
But in my diary, I had your podcast down. So it was the Brits or the podcast. But I got shit to say, so... I thought I couldn't miss out on the opportunity to be with, first of all, Michael.
Thank you.
And an award-winning broadcaster such as
I'm going to clip this and put it on my show.
No, it's got to be done.
And I'd love to say MC Ren because, you know I ain't going to say nothing more, but Ren, nice to be here. Very nice to be here.
Bless up, man.
Let's talk about... We've been discussing a lot before we pressed record. But I want to talk to you about MBEs and the kind of sort of awards you get and acknowledgement you get for services that, for me personally, kind of perpetuate, the empire.
Yeah.
What was it? A kind of bittersweet thing for you, to be brutally honest?
Spot on. Absolutely spot on. I did, listen, we're going to talk about, I suppose, bits of my career and everything, but I at one point was probably one of the most influential young black people in the country for teenagers or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My thing was, though, when I got to a point where I thought, you know what, I'm on Radio 1, I'm on MTV, I've got this music thing, more or less, covered in terms of being a commentator. My influence wasn't just to black kids; it was to all kids of all races. So I wanted to give a little bit of something back.
Yes.
But I realised it shouldn't be just to black kids. I think it should be to all kids, or disadvantaged kids particularly. So I embarked on this Millennium Volunteer thing where I got invited to be an ambassador. Every time I did a gig, I went around the country. I'd leave my house early, go and visit the projects that they were doing, give out awards. Actually, and no one knew I was doing this. All right, it was an initiative, but no one really knew I was doing this, and I was really happy about that. It made me feel really good that I was earning good money, DJing and all that stuff. So I thought, do that. Then I got a letter. You get a letter through the post.
Right.
And the letter said something about, would you have any opposition? I can't remember the letter. I didn't keep it, funny enough. If you were nominated for... I didn't understand it, to be honest. And I thought, I don't get this letter. It's not saying you've got an MBE, but it's saying you might get an MBE. Right. I didn't quite get it. And then you find out in the newspapers. They don't actually tell you.
Oh, right. So the list of honours is publicised.
You find out...
One person
I found out in the newspaper, right, that I got an MBE.
Yeah.
And my first reaction was, I hate that word empire. I didn't know, I felt I was too young because I was in my 30s, you know what I mean? And I thought, I don't know, I felt uncomfortable, a little bit uncomfortable. I felt proud.
That's the thing. That's why I said bittersweet, because yes, you would feel proud. You're being honoured for something, but it's what the award scheme in itself is said. It's just that word. It's like it's that word.
I wish they'd update it, but I have my issues with it because my mum was living in St. Lucia at the time. She had semi-retired, and my dad, they came as immigrants. My dad was a very bright man. He had to be a bus conductor. My mum was a bright lady. She had to be a childminder.
Right.
For them, I accepted it for them. Bottom line. And I took my two kids there when they were quite young, and it was an interesting day because don't be fooled, people. It's not full of celebrities.
Right.
I was the only face there out of 150 people who were honoured that day that I even knew. I mean, I didn't know anybody else. They were all people who really deserve awards. They were people who work in councils, people who volunteer their time, people who do free stuff in the community. That's exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
The only reason I think they encourage that celebrity side of things is to shine a light on the honour system. Because if they kept giving people these awards and no one ever knew about them, you know, not going to put Jim, Jack and Jill's name in the paper much. They only put in David Beckham or something, you know, and it. But anyway, it's bittersweet. I don't shine it up. I've never watched the video. I've got the video. I've never watched it. Prince Charles gave it to me.
Yeah.
And I respect him because of the Prince's trust work he does.
Same, absolutely.
I've got ultimate respect for that man. Yeah. And he spoke to me at length, and I've met him several times anyway. And I always try and I respect that man. A lot of people get him wrong. He cares about the environment. He cares about young people.
Man, you're taking the words out of my mouth.
And that's why I've got a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, as a man, you're absolutely right. I really, really highly respect Prince Charles. Yeah. It's just the fact that
the empire.
You got to call him a prince.
Yeah,
I'm like, why are you more important than me? I know. Because of you. But that's the difference.
We are stuck in a. The one thing that Britain has over America is tradition and all this stuff that we won't let go because of that. And that's all part of the tourism game and everything, you know what I mean?
Right,
so it brings money to the country. But yes, for us, descendants of immigrants, it's a little empire. That word's a bit off.
Yeah. Salt in the wound for me, like when I think about it, because obviously the empire was like, if you know your history, what they done and stuff. So like, that's... For you to accept it, I understand.
Yeah.
This is the thing, I understand.
Yeah.
I 100% understand.
I think
you're
it would
very close with Jazzy B, aren't you? Who's got an,
he's got an OB.
OB.
Yeah, I think he's got an OB.
Jamal Edwards, super young.
He got one recently,
Recently, so
yeah.
I understand being, accepting.
I'll tell you something, Benjamin Zephaniah turned his down, but wait for it. And I'll say this on record. I remember Benjamin Zephaniah turning it down around the same time I think I might have been given, but he wanted to be poet laureate, and they never made him poet laureate. So I always thought it was a bit bitter.
Right, yeah.
You want to be poet laureate. You want to be poet laureate, but you don't want to get an award. You know, I just suppose a bit. I think every black person has this thing that if they get an honour, they think about it. They have to think about it, but ultimately they think about their parents and they think about their family, and they think, you know, it's a bigger story if you turn it down. It's a bigger story, and you know, let's be honest. I'm an employee of the BBC. I'm doing a national radio show. I was doing a national radio show. I was a national figure.
Yes.
It's a big story if you say, no, I don't want it. And all of a sudden, it's out of control. Mm-hmm. So I took that one for the team. You won't see me wearing it on a blazer anytime soon, though, man. And it hasn't been polished since I got it. So
it's not going in your Twitter name.
It's not. No. You're bad. No. I'm going to be straight. If anyone puts it after my name at a gig, I will not do that gig.
Really?
Someone did it once, and I went nuts. Yeah. I didn't get mine for music. You have to understand. Norman J, who uses it in his DJ name, got his for services to music. I didn't get mine for services to music. A lot of people would be surprised at that.
Was it broadcasting?
It was not. It was volunteering. So mine was for volunteering. It was not for... Everyone would assume it's for services to music or broadcast or something. It's not. Well, it's volunteering.
I've been put in my place.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Volunteering night in terms of youth clubs.
Just going around. Just going. I went around the country for a couple of years. You know, I was one of the few national DJs doing what I do. So it took me to parts of the country I'd never go to, and in every major city they have had initiatives for 15 to 24-year-olds who are disadvantaged. You know, we had people in wheelchairs coaching football. We had Muslim girls doing things that they wouldn't be doing. You know what I mean? Mixing with people and it was amazing. Anyone if you had an interest in photography, any interest you had. You know, it was a great initiative, I thought it was. Because I remember 6 weeks holidays came around when I was like 14, 13. I was so bored. I actually hated the 6 week holiday because I had nothing to do.
No, that's real spit, man.
I used to make like a day out of everything. Like one time I actually planned my day around going to get food.
But did you find the holidays, the 6 weeks? Did you go anywhere?
If I didn't have money, it was boring.
Well, we didn't have money.
Yeah.
Who had money? We didn't have money.
Yeah, for real.
So we didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. If I weren't going on holiday, then it was just like, it dragged as well.
Yeah,
but when you get older...
After the first month, you kind of wanted to go back to school.
Especially if you were half decent at school.
Yeah.
And I was a bit of a geek. I wasn't a brainiest kid in my school, but I was definitely a bit of a, I'd rather be at school.
This
you know
is
what I mean?
the thing, yeah. I wasn't in any way... I bunked for a bit in year 11, but only because I'm not
11?
gonna lie, it was when I kind of got into smoking weed a bit more in it, and it was just to spend more of my time smoking weed.
You really started late then, Michael.
Well, no, I actually...
Late bloomer in the building.
That was sarcastic. It's funny because I actually started in like year 7, but then it really kind of got intensified.
Yes, I was still like playing with like Scooby-Doo, Tamagotchis.
I started smoking weed before drinking.
And that is a man who's got your brain cells are working.
Wait, year
properly.
7. Year 7
Imagine how many I could have had.
Wait, year 7 is 11. Are we talking that?
Yeah. On genuinely.
How'd you get money for that, please?
It was? I went to a very, very a school with a lot of well-to-do boys in it. And
worst place.
Culturally, like socially, if you're of a higher class, you have more access to things. So I was around kids who were buying weed from year 7 because they just had more fucking pocket money.
Believe you me, mate.
And they'd spent all this shit. They bought all their comic books. They bought everything else. What else was left apart from weed?
It's disposable income, man. That's what
More
they
of
had.
it, I
So
had to catch up because I'm from Hackney.
You weren't going to buy no weed. You were going to buy trainers if you had enough money. You know what I mean? They had the trainers bought from already, and everything was sorted.
Exactly. So the only thing left to do was drugs, man.
We won't talk too much about drugs.
Just a quick question. You see your voluntary work, did that lead into like you working with the Notting Hill Arts Academy and stuff? Was that...
No, not at all. The voluntary work was genuinely... and then, after I got that MBA, my phone never stopped. Can you come and do this? Can you come and do that? It was like my raison d'etre was to just offer my time and my life to good causes. And I didn't want to be that guy. It wasn't about that. I just chose to do something. And I remember my dad was an insurance salesman after he was and my dad was a stubborn, well, he still is. He's a stubborn man. But one thing about my dad, he's got his principles. He taught me a lot of principles. He never sold anyone an insurance policy he didn't have himself. My dad had a lot of insurance policies, right? Whether they worked or not. So my thing was...
chicken or egg then? Did he have it ready before he sold it to him? Did he just get it out because he was trying to sell it?
That was his line whenever he went to sell it. He said, listen, but he meant it. He genuinely did. So my thing was never do something you don't believe in, really important to me, you know what I mean? So... that was just something that was important to me. I said I would have been one of them kids and I would have loved to have been part of this. Of course. Loved to be. So no, that was over a decade apart. Notting Hill Academy is purely, it's a business, don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's not my business, it's someone else's business, but I believe there's a gap. I don't like the idea of a lot of kids going to uni, spending 30 grand.
Of course.
Being told they can have a future in the music business by people who have never made it in the music business, which is normally the case. And I just think, how can all these kids have a job? This industry, we know how microscopic this industry is. Mm-hmm. You know everyone that there is to know. I know everyone that there is to know. You know what I mean? Everyone around this table knows kind of the key people. How are you going to have thousands of kids? So what it is, it's a smaller initiative, a smaller group of people, and hopefully people get put into real life situations, A&R meetings, marketing meetings. They get you see if it's something you can do. Yeah. It's not the solution. It's just something that interested me, and I was happy to be patron of it. I
mean, in this day and age, there's not really a lot of youth clubs or anything going on for the youth these days. So like that is a very big look. What's your involvement in terms of what you're a mentor exactly?
I'm going there in a couple of weeks, and I meet all the students one-on-one, and they tell me what they're about. They present to me, to be honest, some of them are very wide-eyed. Some of them, I think, are really good and could get jobs in this business. It's all real talk. There's none of this, it's none of this, yeah. And I know they're pushing bursaries hard. That needs to be more and more because some of the most talented kids have no money.
It's true. It's very
And the
true.
biggest problem we're finding is that some of the talented kids have to, they do drop out, some of them, because they just can't afford it.
Life takes over.
Some of the kids with the disposable income are kind of saying, well, I want to see if this is for me or not. You don't
It's a balance. You need to have a balance.
Well, balance. I mean, me growing up, mate, I'm telling you, my attitude was you get a job, you work. It don't work. Work was a 4-letter word, still is, right? I never knew anyone who enjoyed work when I was growing up.
That's real talk.
Work was a means of earning money to then pursue your hobby or your interest after 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's how we viewed it. Honestly, I didn't know a person who said, can't wait to go to work. Right? I know more people
Can't trust
now.
them people.
Yeah, but I know more people now who are like that because
Oh yes.
your eyes are much more open to what is out there for you. Whereas when I was 15, 16, you're an electrician, a carpenter, a plumber, a summit or the other. The advice you got, was always rubbish. No one ever believed you'd amount to anything. I didn't know one person. This is true. Not one person who went to uni of my peers. Not one. Right? And this is when I was 18, 19. Nobody. I didn't know. I probably did know people, but none of my inner circle, none of my close friends. I didn't go and visit one friend at uni. I didn't say, I miss Thingy. She's at uni or Thingy. No. we stayed on in the sixth form, went college for maybe a year and then got a job. Yeah. And my first job was working in a shoe shop. That was my first job. I worked in a shoe shop and I didn't know what my future.
As a black man in the 80s and the early 90s, like how hard was it to be in this industry and stay integral? I'm just genuine because you got to understand.
How hard was it to be in this? The only way you were going to be in this industry is if you was a drummer, a bass player or a singer.
Yeah.
Forget being an executive. Forget about being... There was no... It was...
No space or...
Let me just tell you what it's like for me, right?
Yeah, please.
I'm sitting there and I'm sitting down listening to the radio. And I love the radio. But I never once thought that's a job I could do. Ever enter my... I thought, what a great job. I used to listen to these guys on radio. This is Kenny Everett, Roger Scott, anyone, John Sax's son, anyone who's on radio, all these people. And I used to be like, oh man, what a job. Play music for a living, talking stuff. And I actually remembered key things people said. Yeah. Because that's the power of when you hear I remember Kenny Everett playing Bohemian Rhapsody.
Wow.
On the radio. And it being 5-6 minutes long or something. Yeah. I'd never heard anything like this. And I remember John Peel at school, all the boys, I went to a grammar school up in Old Street.
Oh, Central Foundation.
Central Foundation. At the time, it was a grammar school.
Okay.
And it was I lived in Hackney, a lot of black kids, went to this school full of white kids, and we were in the minority. So I learned a lot about other music, punk, new wave, ska, mods, rockers, all that stuff. They were all into everything. And when I left school, I was like, okay, just work. You got to work. My first job was importing records. I got lucky. I got really lucky.
Where was that? In the record store, yeah?
Well, the joke is this. I'm managing a shoe shop, right? I might have sold about 5 pairs a day. There's a little boutique shoe shop. Lunchtime, I'd lock the shoe shop up. Yeah. That's when it's most busy because everyone else is on lunch. Yeah. And I'd go to the record shop, down the road. Seriously, in my car, I'd nip there or I'd leave one person in the shoe shop.
Just to keep an eye on
just to see what's come in, because I was record mad. The guy who works in the record shop said, you know more about records than me. I need someone I've got this old school catalogue. I don't even know any of the titles. I wonder if you can help me, blah, 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 blah. Next minute I had a job, not behind the counter, doing imports. That job changed my life. It changed my life. I got £111 a week, right?
What year was this?
This is... Why, 85, 84, 84.
That's what I was asking.
Right? Hey, that was no money. Shut up. That was before tax. That was before tax.
You were balling.
No, man. That was before tax. So when you take the tax out of it, no, but it was a great... Sorry, I'm going to hog this so much, man. It was the greatest job ever, and I'll tell you why. Because it meant I could leave the shoe shop job, obviously. I don't know, I was 21, something like 22. I don't know what I was, but... I could leave the shoe shop job, and it was a great job because they gave me a little old van, right? And my job was to get on the phone to America, and it was as simple as this. What have you got out this week? What's come out? So literally, Public Enemy.
Jesus.
When Public Enemy first came on the planet, I was there. We got this new band called Public Enemy. And I'm like, okay, what they sound like. He'd take the phone, put it next to the speaker, and it's just noise. You can imagine Shockley and all them. It's just noise. I said, what is that? He said, man, it's hot. It's hot in New York. You need some. And I'd say, give me 50. No, man, you need more than 50, man. You're going to be on my phone, you know. And so I'd order like 300 on behalf of the company. And then I'd say, what house you got? He said, we got some stuff on tracks. We got some stuff coming in. We got masters, you know, we got Mr. Fingers or stuff like that. So it was DJ International. It was tracks. It was hip hop from Def Jam. It was all those little satellite labels, you know. And if there was a quirky tune that was blowing up in New York, but was on an independent, I'd have to order that. So, and then I'd race to the airport, count them in the cold.
That's actually crazy.
Right? Put them back on the van, and then race to every specialist record shop. There were about 3 companies that did this in London. Bluebird, all these shops, Groove Records. Pull your van up on a yellow line. Run in the store, all these big DJs are waiting there. You know what I mean? And you're the guy. And I'm the little guy. I'm the little guy, but I'm the guy. I don't care. Yeah. They're big DJs, but I'm the guy they're waiting for. You need me. So I loved it, man. I go in, I pull it out. It was all about status. It was all about status. And I'd walk in, little me, and I'd just feel big. I'd feel so big. I loved it. And count them out, and I say, you sold out of them. I told you sold out of them, didn't I? You know what I mean? I told you. You got any left, Trev? No, I've got none of my van. But then the other van company might come, and they might have some. It was a game. But it's a hustle, and that's what I liked about it. It was like, it was like a hustle. You're driving around, you're parking illegally, you're getting out, you're filling out your pad, you're coming home, and when you get back to the office, which was just up the road, Stratford, that was where we were based, Stratford. Okay. I'd get all the way back to Stratford. I'd have gone Southend, Edgware Road, everywhere.
Jesus.
And I'd come back. It'd be about 8 o'clock on the phone again. What you got, man? I've sold out of that. Have you got any more of that? My job was like, I was working 15 hours a day.
But you loved it.
I loved it.
That's the best thing about it.
Plug, man.
It. And it set me on. And then the year after that, or that year, I was still DJing. I started DJing. Sorry, guys, you ain't going with me.
No, please.
Carry on.
I started DJing.
All night.
All right.
For anyone just listening, there is a fireplace that's been lit. We're all kind of lying on our stomachs, kicking our legs.
But my story, honestly, my story is I love my story because it's so honest and real.
Sounds inspirational.
And everyone says you must have been really ambitious. I wasn't. It just all fell into place like this. So I was doing that, and then at the same time, I had a sound system. Yeah. Everybody had a sound system, or was part of a sound system, or was a box boy for a sound system, or promoted for a sound. You had to be connected to a sound system. The big sound systems of my time were Rap Attack, Mastermind, Fresh Beat. They were on the other side of town. In my part of town in Hackney, it was Sir George. It was reggae. Reggae was killing it. Jemmy Magic, people like that. So I started a sound, and I thought, I don't want all them reggae heads in my party. They're going to bully me, tell me what I must play.
Yo, Trevor, come spin the tune, man.
They're what they believe soul music is and funky music and hip hop is not what we think it is. So there's like two-step. That's all they're like, what we called old school two-step. Grinding up against the ball. Right? I wanted to play Dougie Fresh. I wanted to play James Brown. I was a bit like that. So, and I had a few friends. I had a core of mates in Hackney that were different, a bit like me. We used to dress a bit different. We were different. It was tougher in them days. You couldn't look like Michael, right? You know, no, but you know what I mean? You couldn't dress with freedom. You couldn't. You get picked on a lot. So I decided to call my sound Mad Hatters, because I said, no one's going to look at that and say, I've got to be at that rave.
Of course.
Because it didn't have high power in the name or Saxon King Power or something like that. So
the names of sound systems.
I did a little party. We used to do stupid little blues parties, and someone put the electricity back on in a dead flat or something with a nail, and whoever found the flat runs the door, and all we wanted to do was DJ. But we all took loans out to buy decks, mixer, and all that stuff. We were all in debt for a couple of grand each, me and my 2 mates. So I'm playing this party in late, and there's probably 80 people in this party at most, right? I ain't making no money, never made money. I didn't make money for 5 years. But Tosca, a guy called Tosca, and I'm putting this on record, it's important that this guy gets some shine. Tosca was in there, a guy called Tosca, and he was with a guy called Lyndon C. Lyndon C with Derek Boland's one of Derek Boland's best mates. They were like best mates. Derek B was like, he was a great DJ. A great DJ. He ended up being a rapper. He ended up being our most successful early rapper. He rapped in an American accent.
Yeah.
He got a deal, I think, on Profile. He was
Serious.
He played at Live Aid.
What?
He rapped at Live Aid on stage, right? So
What year was this?
This is, I don't know. Live Aid was probably late 80s, 87 or something. But anyway, Derek was first and foremost a hot DJ. He was one of my favourite DJs. So Lyndon being in there and Tosca, you know, I was playing my tunes, my rare grooves and mix, you know, whatever I was playing. I was very eclectic, even when I was a youth. And then I worked in a record shop the next day, and someone said to me, "Tosca's looking for you." And I said, "Well, Tosca, is he?" Because Tosca's always buying. Tosca always wants the best tunes. He wants everything. He came back. He said, "Great party the other night." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You heard of Kiss FM?" It was a brand new station.
This was when it was pirate, yeah?
Brand new station.
Okay.
Two of my favourite DJs were on this station, Norman J and Paul Anderson.
Jeez, Norman J's a legend.
Norman J and Paul Anderson. And I said, "Yeah, of course." He goes, "Do you want to be on it?" Shit came out of my pants. Right? And I stood behind the counter. At this point, I was now working. I was managing the record shop, and I went, "Yeah, all right." He said, "I'm going to put you in touch with a guy called Gordon Mack, blah, blah, blah. Gordon will sort it out." So I met Gordon Mack. And the first show I got, we was a weekend station at the time.
Okay.
The first show I got was 1 till 4 in the morning.
Graveyard shift.
I didn't even know what the graveyard shift was, but I was excited.
Of course.
I went up there, did my show. You don't want to hear me on radio. I sound so miserable because no one ever smiled in them days.
Yeah.
We never took pictures. Two things we never did. Never carried cameras. Everything's, you're going to hear everything from hearsay. Anyone who had pictures, I'm sorry, no one I knew took pictures of anything. There's barely any pictures of me in the 80s, right?
Jeez.
Barely any. So I did my show. I did a little competition the first day I did my show, I remember.
Was it like win a free pair of headphones?
No, it was win. I'll tell you
tickets.
what it was. Win Across the Tracks 7-inch single, which was worth about 50 quid. It was rare at the time. And I remember Gordon Mack calling me up and said, "You ain't doing that competition. I want that." and Kiss, you know, I was on Kiss. Yeah. I was on Kiss basically, and that changed my life because I loved being a pirate.
Of course.
I love being a pirate. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of pirates out there. Everyone said they were the best. You know, LWR said they were the best or so. But we knew we had the most eclectic mix of DJs. You know, if you think back to who was on Kiss FM in them days.
Rodigan was on there as well, Westwood.
Well, to begin with, no. Judge Jules.
Yeah. Whoo.
Me. I got Jazzy on there. Well, Jazzy got himself on there, but you had to recommend somebody. It was that kind of station, and you were put on there for your music, not your presenting skills. So we had
juggled, yeah.
It was all about people who knew music. Everyone on that station had a collection. Everyone was, you know, and we spent a lot of money on music, man.
I can imagine records were expensive back then.
Ridiculous. All my wages went on records. Everything.
You didn't get nothing free or slip one out when it's delivering.
We didn't get any promos sent. I wasn't on any mailing list. We bought all our music import. You know, music cost a lot of money then. I'd be spending 100 plus a week on music, and I was earning about £100.
Honestly, how many vinyl would you say you've owned in your lifetime? Even if there's parts of your collection that you don't own
probably
anymore.
20,000, I'd say.
Oh my days.
I've got about 10 now because I've moved house so many. When I first moved house, right, I remember I called on my mates, "Will you help me move house?" Yeah. You know, we get about 5 cars, just move furniture, move house. After that, no one turned up because of my records.
This is like you and your trainers, isn't
no
it?
one showed up because of the music. And
records are heavy as well.
but let me give you a picture of what it was like in them days. It became a thing, buying records. Buying records became a look. If a guy bought records, he'd carry that record bag everywhere with him that day. It's like if a guy bought a belt from Cecil G's, he'd carry that bag everywhere with him. In fact, for 4 weeks.
Cecil G.
You
get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You buy a silk shirt, or you go to
Balenciaga now.
That's what I'm saying. Or you go Russell and Bromley's. Them reggae boys used to buy their Crocs or their skins. They'd be carrying.
Cecil G.
I'm telling you, man, they're carrying a Russell and Bromley bag for like a week. Dude, you bought them. put them in your bedroom. Nah, man, it still came. But that's how we were. We little things we absolutely clung on to.
Like Harrods bags and shit.
It was really important. People knew what you were about from watching you walk down the street. It was important how you dressed to identify whether you was a soul boy, a reggae boy, a skinhead, a mod, a rocker. You had to have an identity. No one walked down the road neutral. That didn't happen. And then you'd have an accessory. The accessory told them what you're about. You either have a Sony Walkman, which meant you're music mad. Then reggae boys had a ghetto blaster walking down the street. I don't care. Or you know, you had to. It was identity was so important to everybody.
You were literally a first-hand witness of the birth of a subculture with the funky dread.
Yeah.
Being so close to Jazzy B as well. How far does your relationship with Jazzy B go? Were you like childhood friends?
I'll tell you when we met. I can tell you exactly what the day we met. We met. There was a club called Trends in Stoke Newington, and anyone who's old enough.
Oh my days!
Would know about Trends. Trends
like,
was.
I've got an older sister. So
yeah. You talk about Trends, I know about Trends.
Yeah.
When you went in Trends, they'd probably give you a knife to walk in there with.
Swear down, is that?
They'll search you. I'm going to be honest. At one point, at that point, living in Hackney, everybody carried something. It was a silly period, right? You know, because and it was kind of like a bit like today. People don't understand why kids would do that and say it's for protection, but in a way, it kind of was just because you just didn't know. It was really weird. It was silly because I'm not a violent guy at all. But no, Trends. What I'm trying to say, Trends was a local club that did a lot of local events. But my mum used to childmind the guy who ran it when he was a kid. Right. She was a childminder. Yeah, so Glenn Trends, he passed away unfortunately, which was really sad. But he was younger than me, but his family owned the club. So I said, Glenn, I'd like to do a soul night in there. So he gave me a Friday night.
That's sick. On a Friday as well, man. That's banging.
Before I get to this, I've got to tell you about my first ever gig at Dougie's. Have you ever heard of a club called Dougie's, which is Clapham Pop, right on Clapham, on that roundabout. Right. Clapton roundabout.
Yeah,
it used to be called Dougie's.
No,
there used to be a big place, the White Line pub next to it, I think.
Oh, Clapton roundabout.
Yeah, Clapton. And then there was Mingles further down. But anyway, Dougie's held about 600 people. I got a Thursday night, my first ever gig. I did it with a guy called Stafford. Do you know how many people turned up?
10?
Nah, man. 3 times that amount.
Hey.
30 people turned up. Do you know how many on the guest list?
40.
27. 27 on the guest list. I have 3 payers. Obviously, they didn't give me another night.
Yeah.
Come
on.
And I'm busy playing all my freaky, weird music, and I had to make a decision. And I think decisions, even some people might be listening to this, and they might be embarking on a music career. Decisions you make, even at that age, are sometimes the most important decisions you're ever going to make in your life. And I made about 4 or 5 decisions in my life that I've stuck to that have been the right decision. So I don't believe when you're 15 or 16 or 17 or 18, you're not aware. I never talk to teenagers like they're stupid.
Yeah.
Because I remember looking at Stafford and going, boy, 3 people paid, man. And the club was vast, but everyone was dancing.
That's the most important.
And I said, look, man, this is two options here. You either play what everyone wants and you become a DJ for hire.
Yeah.
And you play, but you're playing what people want. You're not getting an identity.
Yeah.
Or my attitude is I'm looking at this crowd, I'm going to grow this crowd. This crowd like me, we're in Hackney, we're the underdogs. I'm gonna grow this crowd.
It's like you gonna learn, man. You gonna learn.
No, but you know what? And I look at what people like Chance and all these people do with their communities, and you know, I don't even know what they all do because I'm not a social media freak. But all this DIY culture that's going on, I believe in it. I've always believed in it because it's what I've always done. So by the time when I left that place and I went and did the gig at Trends, I was confident that I'm gonna promote this Friday night. So my theory was week 1. You guest list it heavy. You lose money. Week 2, you lose money, but you must go up.
Of course.
Week 3, you're aiming to break even. Week 3 is the most important week of your night, of your run. Because if you break even on week 3, after that you are plain sailing. Because I'm taking it for granted they will love the music, right?
That's sick how you describe it like
right,
that. Yeah.
so I'm week 2, I've got a few people in. Week 3, I'm on my break-even week. I'm ready. I've brushed my teeth. I've got fresh jeans on. I've been selecting my tunes. I know this is the week. Glenn's going to look at me and go, mate, you got Fridays for good. I rock up at the club, double booking. Trev, sorry, man. I've got a fashion show, Trev. Sorry, man. Can't do this. I said to him, Glenn, how long have I known you? We're arguing. He said, Trev, he's about 6'4", Glenn was. I was like, all right. I stood at the door telling people it's not on. The worst feeling, you know that feeling? It's not on. It's cancelled.
Everyone looking nice.
Meanwhile,
everyone in their heels.
These guys are bringing speaker boxes in, right? One of them had little dreadlocks. And he's getting in trouble because he's got no trousers on. If he's only a box, he's bringing the boxes. That was HB Soul to Soul, dragging boxes in. So I'm driving I had an orange Mini, and a guy pulls up in a purple Honda Prelude, or a mauve one. He pulls over, he winds the window down, he goes, "You mad at her?" I said, "Who are you?" He come over, goes, "I'm Jazzy B, Soul to Soul."
Sound exactly like him.
So I'm like, you don't know me. I heard about you lot. You pulled off some big warehouse party in King's Cross. I heard you was counting money for like days in black dustbin liners. It's this famous party they did.
I heard about this by King's Cross.
By King's Cross, yeah. On his show, he talks about it a bit more. Yeah.
Yes.
And this is all true.
And Judge Jules was involved in that
it's
as well,
all
right?
true. It's all true. Judge Jules was a young guy. He's actually a year younger than me, I think, Jules. And he's a young guy, and he was a North London boy, and the young Jewish kids in North London were the most receptive to black music. That's a really odd thing. They had this massive Jewish teenage base that were into hip-hop, they wanted it. They just wanted it, right? And so Norman J was involved, Jazzy B had the sound system, Norman had and they pulled something off, and I had nothing to do with it because I wasn't on that. I wasn't part of that clique. I was just a local bod from Hackney. So when I said to Jazzy, "You don't know me," I meant it.
Yeah.
I said, "I've heard of you because my best mate leaves my parties to go wherever you lot are because you lot are always in some trendy ass spot while I'm in Hackney."
Yeah.
Because Hackney was not trendy, mate. You see, London feels like it is now. London feels was a no-go area back in the day. You're crazy. So I was kind of happy that he knew me. Because what he said to me, he said, I said, "How do you know me?" He goes, "I heard you got tune." That's all he said. And mate, that's all I needed to hear.
Yeah.
So then I said to him, that was your thing. That's the thing. It's like someone say, "I hear you can rhyme, man." You know, it's the thing.
Yeah, totally.
So then
he's like, yeah, that's me. You should have been like, yeah, I got a couple.
Check Jazzy's next line. "Come to my office."
Ooh.
I'm like, what sound man's got an office? I said, "Where's your office?" He goes, "Camden." And Camden was, you have to understand, in the 80s was the place to be. Camden was Shoreditch way before Shoreditch. Camden was the hub of it was the being, you know what I mean? I was so impressed. So I had to play it cool. I was like, all right, I'll come up and see you. Went up and saw him. Mate, if his office was like this place now, this place is Buckingham Palace, the Jazzy's office, right? But my point is, he had a space. Yeah. There was H on the decks. There was Sparky, who was, He had
a lifestyle store,
he didn't have the store yet.
Oh,
he just had the space. This is pre-store. This is just the space. This is before everything. This is at Soul to Soul, couple of years in, you know. But I was impressed, you know, because he was organised. But I thought, no one makes a living out of a sound system. Everything we do is illegal. You can't make. He said, Prince's Trust.
For real?
Prince's Trust, they helped me with my postage, with this, with my rent. That's why I believe, you know what I mean? Because I saw it in action. And from that moment on, we got on. We did a party in Hackney, which was a great idea. It was a jeans jam. It's the first time I earned money from a party I'd ever done. And he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot, you know, like in terms of, he didn't teach me, I just observed. Him and Norman were the two people I observed the most, just watching them. And the fact that everything they put on, they made sure they was on a cut of it or in control of it, more importantly. Not so much the cut, because I was tired of being in debt. I was always in debt for music. I maxed out my credit cards. I mean, I owed about $5,000 on records owed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's a passion, man.
Dude, I was an addict. It was horrible. I lost
imagine.
everything to music. Seriously, I lost my girl, everything. Right? I've got stories for you. But anyway, them guys taught me. I mean, so my thing was, Norman was on Kiss. I wanted to get Jazzy on Kiss. I kept saying to Gordon, you need to get Jazzy on Kiss. But Jazzy, Soul were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They were going to get on anyway. And it was a really good family. One day, Gordon Mack turns around and says, Kiss FM's going to shut down.
Sorry, just quickly, is it true that it was on a boat back in the day?
No.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify.
Not in my time. It wasn't on a boat. No. That's Caroline. That's Radio Caroline. That's Radio 1. That's the original Radio 1.
Yeah.
Radio Caroline. Yeah, Radio Caroline was the original and everyone thought pirate radio's that's why it's called pirate, because it was on a boat. Radio Caroline, and it wasn't the only station on a boat. In the 60s, that's what they did. They put them on boats because you can't touch them. Yeah. There was no law that says you can't broadcast from a boat, but there was a law that kind of said you can't illegally broadcast from land or something like that. Yeah. So they got around the rules.
Loopholes.
What we did, we just did the original microwave link. You're in one building. Your transmitter's far away. When you get done,
we ain't got no seas around. Landlocked.
When you get done, when you get done, you get done. Yeah. But whenever they found the DTI, who were the enemy, DTI, when they grab your shit, but they don't grab you. Yeah. You're naive if you got your stuff in the same place.
Yeah, but
what we were gutted about was, my show. If we got done on the Friday night, my show ain't on the Sunday, and I'm in bits.
I hate that when you go on pirate radio.
I'm on air. I've spent £100 on records this week. Them records don't mean nothing next week. That's how we were.
Yeah, of course.
Next week's a new batch. I'm missing out. Everyone else was playing them. We were like that. It was silly.
Yeah.
But one day, Gordon Mack said we had a meeting. There was about 25 to 30 DJs in that room, and he said, George Power's leaving. He owned George Power, Tosca, and Gordon Mack owned Kiss FM. 3 of them. George Mack. We'd already voted Tosca off for something he did, so it was just Gordon and George. George started Greek radio. He saw bigger bucks in Greek radio, so he left. And Gordon said, "We got nowhere to go. We got no money. We need to raise $2,000. We need to $2,000." There's about 25 people sitting there going, "Oh my God, where are we going to get that?"
You're like, "Well, I'm in debt already. What do you want?"
Where are we going to get that from? He says, "Well, maybe if 10 of you put £200 in each, we could." Sorry, I'll start again. If 10 of us put £200 in each, we can raise for $2,000. So even though I didn't have the money, I put my hand up because I love the station. And so 10 of us did. Then it's like we got nowhere to broadcast, and I said, "I got somewhere." My girlfriend's flat.
Oh God.
19 floors up in Leytonstone in Cattle Estate. Brilliant. Where is it? It's 19 floors up. Where? Cattle Estate. Oh, awesome. Da-da-da-da-da. Got some keys cut. And then I told her.
What's the saying? What's the saying? Forgiveness is easier to get than permission.
Mate, it's a 1-bedroom flat.
And you're cramming in.
Sorry, Stephanie. it was over. Literally.
How long did it last for?
Well, no, I mean, the station came in there, they pissed everywhere, they cups everywhere. Obviously, and also the threat of getting raided in a flat. I mean, but when you're in there, when all you care about is music, doing this, you do anything. It was like that. I mean, you have to understand, in order to hear your favourite tune, you had to go to a club or listen to pirate radio. You're not hearing it anywhere else. It's not, you can't open a laptop. Yeah. People were dedicated to this, we sweat blood for this.
Radio was a big thing, man.
It was huge.
Still is.
That's why people still talk about it.
Yeah.
So affectionately. Yeah. Even the Grime MCs who grew up on Pirate, they still talk so affectionately about it.
There was nothing else.
There was nothing else. Like the internet was just coming up. Pirate radio was my life. So Solid, the Light FM.
Yep. But and we're talking a generation before that. Yeah. So imagine what we were like.
Yeah, of course.
We were starving. So I mean, things accelerated. And I was enjoying life in the 80s. It was like fashion was great. You could wear what you like.
Did you have an afro or was you always bald?
Mate, this is my problem. It's a sad thing. And I'll come clean about the whole hair thing. Everyone might want to know.
Curious.
Mate, this is the thing. Whatever you're going to say, you made it, you owned it, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You 100% owned it.
It's through necessity, Michael. Serious. But no, in the 80s, I'm like, so I'm let's go back to Jazzy. I'm like, Jazzy's like, So this is Jazzy. He's so funny. He's like, so why are you called Mad Hatter then? And I'm like, I just come up with a stupid name. You don't wear hats though. I'm like, yeah, but I just come up with a stupid name because a funny name because I wanted my sound to sound a bit different to the norm. He said, well, we're the Funky Dreads. We got Funky Dreads. Trev, man, you got to wear a hat. Yeah. So then I became a mad hatter wearing. I had about 50 hats. I used to go and buy hats for so much money.
Swear.
More debt.
Wear them while I'm DJing. White brim hat while I'm DJing. Sweat the shit out of the hat. Ruin the hat. Ruin my hair in the meantime because no one ever saw my hair again.
Serious.
I used to have a sort of quiff. All my boys were James Brown freaks, so we quiffed it up. But my quiff always went flop because I didn't know them boys were spraying here, spraying there, shit. Yeah. And I would never do that. But so I became the Mad Hatter anyway, and I wore hats all the time. And then we could get to the point when I shaved my head. I remember the day I shaved my head for the first time. It changed my life. Remember I said there's points in my life where things happen. The first one was being at that club and 30 people turned up. Yeah. Right? And me deciding I'm going to grow this instead of become a DJ for hire. Yeah. I still want control, I want my own thing. And I'd rather have 10 more people than 15. I did parties for 50 people. People talk about them like they're legendary. More people say they were there than were there. One of them things. Yeah. But more people, I used to follow Mad Hatter. Yeah, bruv. I bump into people on Oxford Street, they tell me this shit. I'm looking at them going, well, I don't mind. I like it. I think it's funny. So it just means they knew you from Hackney, that's all. Or they went in a record shop you were in once. They didn't go to your parties, and all of them. But so that was one thing. Another thing was, I remember when Kiss got a license.
What year was that?
I was going to say you were part of it.
1990.
Yeah.
It's a massive.
How long was you on it before the license? Like 5?
We were 5 years, but 2 of those years we were off air applying for a license. The government said we're going to give you a license, but you've got to go through the normal channels and apply. So people like LWI said, we don't believe you. Most of them said, we don't believe you. They carried on with their hustle because they was doing all right, making a bit of money. We were subsistence. We weren't making money. Every penny we got went back in the station. And we tried to do it the right way. The first station that got a license was Jazz FM. We were gutted. So it could have caused mutiny in the camp because DJs are sitting there going, I told you, they just wanted us off the air. Yeah. They were never going to give a shit. You know how this is. The system's corrupt, rah, rah, rah. Gordon, to his credit, persuaded us all. And these are guys hungry to do radio. Yeah. To wait, try again. He must have known something. And we tried again. When we got that license, bruv, it was the only time my dad and music. My dad always said, I'm going to go to the reggae university. He didn't approve at all of my madness with music. Yeah. Not knowing that it's his collection that inspired me, that inspired me the most. But he always worked. And I remember we shared a glass of champagne just because I think my dad couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe it. And then when they said, we want you to do... First of all, the first shock for me was, we want you to be on the board of directors, the only DJ on the board of directors. I'm 25, and they said, you're on the board of directors. Wow. So next to me was Richard Branson's lawyer. On the other side was a big man from... Man, it was ridiculous. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I still went to the meetings with a big wide brim hat because I was Mad Hatter. So I'm sitting there like, yeah. Right? I bought me my first ever new car. Because I think I got 10 grand a year for being on the board. Yeah. Back in 90, that was some change.
Big money,
that
man.
Was all right.
How did it feel like when you paid off all your debts?
Excuse me? What are you talking about? Paid off debt?
You're from the project.
Your record.
Why do you think he moved house so much?
Do you know?
He's got fishes now.
Wait a second. I want to jump to that, but when we got the license, that's a really good point, because that is a real point, and I will tell you, because at some point money does become, you can say you do things for the love, and you can keep saying that till the cows come home. Eventually, money becomes important, right? It does become important. But that changed my life, 1990. That changed my life. It changed all our lives. It changed the listening habit. It changed the lives of a lot of people in London, because Choice FM had already been granted a local license, like for Brits in South London, and then North London. I had a little one in North London, so I had Tottenham, and there was I think another one called WKRM KND or something. I can't remember. There was a little North London one as well. But Kiss was London-wide, proper dance station. And the music coming out was all over the place. It was house. Yeah. British people were now making their own music. A lot of house, a lot of British music was being made. We had the DJs that could handle all that, you know. I was there and they said, we want you to do a daytime show. What, daytime show? I said, yeah. So, okay. So I did that for a bit, but unfortunately I fell in love, got married, and I lost my way. It became all about, you know, my life, my kids, and it was a bit crazy. It was a bit crazy. It was crazy. Yeah. It wasn't easy, and I lost the plot, and they fired me off daytime. What? For my attitude. Can you believe me? But for the way I was really down, and I wasn't really being myself. Yeah. I mean, Gordon. To be fair, Gordon called me in his office and he started crying.
Were you detached from everything?
Yeah, started crying when he fired me. You know, he was like, yeah, I didn't care. Yeah, I did not care. I was not in a good place, and that's when I shaved my head. I shaved my head. That was the third thing I did. That was a great thing to do. No, the second thing was the week we were on air. Yeah, I'm driving through Hackney. And this is something that Michael will understand massively, being slightly older than I think most of you around the table, right?
I'm a dinosaur.
Right, this is a big thing. It's a big thing for me. So I'm driving through Hackney and there's a guy called Ricky Rankin who was born and brought up in Hackney, same as me, but he talked just like a yardie. And that you used to have a lot of that back in the day. You used to have us guys who talk like, you know, black Cockney Londoners. That's what we are. And then you'd get the guys that talk like pure yardies.
But never been Jamaica.
He probably had, but when he was you know what I mean? So he stops me in my car. I'm going up to Forest Gate where I was living at the time. He said, Trevor! Wind down the window, man. I Kiss FM get a license, Rasta! He's like, listen, man, I heard you on the radio today, man. Respect my brother and all this shit. Respect. He's giving it, and he goes, but hear what? I said, what? You sound like a white man.
That what he said to you, yeah?
So I said, Ricky, later, yeah? What? I was good. I was good. I didn't. I said, all right, Ricky, later, man. I wound the window up. I sounded like me, basically, right? And I drove. That drive to Forest Gate was the longest drive. It only takes 20 minutes. Yeah. It's the longest drive of my life.
Mine was doing overtime.
It was my first week. I was still core Hackney boy. I hadn't seen the big bad world. I hadn't even been out of London much, you know what I mean? And this guy's hitting me with this one. And I was like, I remember going home and sitting there and panicking. Shit, I sound like a white guy. What's he mean? What's he trying to say? He knows me all my life. What's he talking about? Well, he never said that to me before. I've always talked like this. But he thought on the radio I should put on a voice. Yeah. That was him talking. And I had to make a decision. You know, and my decision was, no, sorry, mate, I sound like me. Yeah. And that's it. If I'm not going to make an effort to go on the radio and put on a persona. I'm not knocking people who do it.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Some people got a shtick, they got a shtick, that's your shtick. My shtick is, I'm me, right? That was decision number 2. Decision number 3 was I shaved my head a couple of years later. Yeah. That was a big one. That was a huge decision. Because I shaved my head, no one had seen me for like a year. I was lost in the abyss of life. A horrible madness. That I had no money. I'd lost all my money. Tried to buy a house. Lost all my shares in Kiss. Down to 0. Oof. Someone just stole my car. It wasn't even insured. I borrowed $6,000 to buy the car. They wouldn't let me insure it because it was a hot hatch. They were coming down really hard. So it was on the forecourt or somewhere. And on my birthday, someone thieved the car.
That's mad.
And they found the car burnt out, or they only had the serial number left. Wow. And so I had to pay for that car for the next 2 years.
That's hurting.
I was in a terrible place, mate.
That's
seriously, right? So I shaved my head and I was like, I dare someone come and slap me on my head. But my mate actually walked up to me. He's the biggest piss taker I know. And he said, it suits you, you know? He just said it suits you. Yeah. I went, really? He said, yeah, no, it really suits you. And that was it. And because at the time there was only a couple of black people with bald heads that I knew. Michael Jordan was my inspiration to shave my head, actually. He gave me the, because if you look at him with the same skin tone, everything, you know what I mean? I just went, and it really is a scary thing, you know. I'm not being. It seems like nothing, but it was a scary thing to me back then. No one did it.
Yeah.
No one. Well, not no one did it, but very few people did it.
Absolutely, it's a massive statement to literally go bald.
All of you in this room have only known me bald.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if you had hair.
No, I've still got hair grows. I would have a devil's peak.
Yeah.
Like my family, hereditary, we normally go, we get that little devil's peak, you know.
Yeah.
Like Usain Bolt's going to have one, you know what I mean? You can see it, right?
Yeah.
He could be in my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And a lot of black guys have got that. So that was a big, big thing for me. And that gave me a lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the only reason I managed to move on and do stuff, you know, visually, because I wasn't a confident guy before that at all.
Because you have literally been, it seems like a jack of all trades, but master of all of them. You've gone from, you know, renowned DJ to renowned. We've touched on your work as a DJ, as a broadcaster.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about your A&R work as well.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously, you know, being a household name on our TVs with the.
I've done some silly shows as well, you know, that a lot of people never saw, you know.
Oh really?
Yeah, but you know what it is? You know what it is? I think, and it's funny because the first thing I said when I came, and I said to Rebecca, I said, well done, congratulations on your presenter award. Because you need to, when you get acknowledgement, you need to be encouraged, you know what I mean? And it's not all you can do, it leads to other things eventually, because it means someone likes your personality, there's something about you. But I also am quite afraid, you know what I mean? I'm not like, I know a lot of people who just fearless and will do anything. I remember being at home, getting my Technics. First time I had my Technics, it's a wonderful moment, right? And you get your mixer. And I remember spinning back and keeping that loop going. Before we had all them Seratos and everything, it was a pure vinyl and
12
scratching. 1210s, rain, mixer, you know, scratching, just keeping it going. I thought I was like Flash. Come in a club, I'd never do it. Never do it. You never hear me go, never. Because unless I felt I was the best or really good at something, really, really good, I wouldn't touch it.
Right.
I would always let other people do it. And I'd always let someone who's better than me do something that's better than me. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, of course,
Rather than
that's the lane,
stumble through and say, oh, I can do that, I can do that. There's a lot of DJs I notice would be truly ambitious with what they want to do, and probably not capable to do what they want to do. So I stuck to what my strengths were. You know, I'm a selector at heart.
I was going to say, yeah.
I'm a selector.
That is, in the bits, those were, it wasn't about how technically able you were. You kind of revered certain DJs for doing that, but you didn't try it. You just knew that you were, when there was a party that needed starting, you were the man to do. People don't care about the freaking and all that.
The kids were cutting and scratching a lot. It was a lot of battling going on with it. You'd have a sound system, you have someone who could do that. But the most revered person in the sound system is the selector. End of story. The selector, the guy. If you're known for what you chose to play or your tune selection or where you can take the party, of course you've got to be able to blend the tune and keep the party going. But, you know, anally holding the tune in the mix for 3 minutes, the only people who cared about that were guys who wanted to do it.
Yeah, of course.
Girls are like, dude, when's the vocal coming in? When's the vocal, you know what I mean? You know, another big decision was, you know, I said I used to have a core of people from my era used to come to my parties, and it was great to see them because you could put something on and they get the party started, because everything was about dancing in those days. You know, we walked into a club, mate, I used to queue up to go Electric Ballroom when I was 19 at 9:30. I was the third person in the queue. Paul Anderson would walk past me with his record boxes and my heart would go funny. You know what I mean? Because that's the guy who's going to play on my electro funk in a minute. I'm going to be walking up to him going, trying to get on the stage going, to my mate, should I ask Paul what that tune was? You know what I mean? And he'd be like,
then you're like, I'm going to do it.
Dude, it's a big deal. Because you're not going to know what it is. Who's going to tell you?
No,
I'm going to go home and go on the internet. There was no internet. I can't. You're in a club.
This is actually mad, you know.
When you actually really think about it, it's scary to think that like there was no Shazam, there was no way you could remember some of the lyrics and Google it in.
It's a completely different world.
Mate, the DJ was so powerful. You were standing on the dance floor. I'm telling you now, Some kids are breakdancing, some are popping, some are locking, some are sliding. You're doing whatever you're doing. Again, I could dance, but I wasn't the best dancer. So
you didn't make
I'll
a
be
show of
busting
it.
moves
Yeah,
everywhere. But come the club, I'm just on the periphery.
Course, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's me. So, and and we'd have £2 on us. And it'd be like, we'd come out the club, I'd buy one tango. And I'd have about 150 or, no, more than that, 160, 70 left. And I could buy KFC.
Was it still in the?
It's still the same place.
No way.
Same place.
Fucking
that
hell.
KFC's been there forever, right? If we bought KFC, we're walking home.
Yeah.
And that's 3 mile walk.
That chicken had to be the one.
So
I would do that, boy.
these are decisions.
Trust me,
That chicken's getting
These are the decisions we had to make.
What did you used to get though?
50-50. Well, it was always you just got chips, wings, and something or the other. We couldn't afford.
I want to know the
Additional corn.
I don't want to know the secret blend of herbs and spices. This
Mate,
chicken makes
we
me
are
walk 3 miles home. You know
Let me
what?
tell you something. I'm walking home real slow. Real slow. I mean, I'm walking home real fast. I'm eating real slow.
Yeah.
Because by the time I got to Stamford Hill, I'm good. I know I'm about 1.5 miles from my house. I know that
This
walk
is
takes
crazy.
15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
And at this time, it's about 4 a.m. because and it's beautiful though. Beautiful. Look at me. Look at my memories. I'm lighting up at the thought of it. You know. It. To me, that's what makes you. That's when you know you love the club. Of
course.
I love that club.
You didn't even drink.
No, I didn't drink. I had alcohol. Forget it. It was just tango. It was just tango, refreshed.
Because you already knew you were gonna.
So George Power, who used to run that night, George Power saw I was queuing up early. Yeah, where you go? I go college. I go Kingsway Princeton College. That's where I go. And he say, "Can you promote? You can promote. I'll give you free tickets to come in if you promote in the college."
Smart man.
Gives me some tickets. I'm going around the common room. I'm like a don.
So add street team to
I'm
your
a
list
don.
of,
I'm a don.
credentials.
I'm like, you want to go? You want a discount ticket to Jersey Fan Club Electric Ballroom Friday?
Once again, the plug. All his life, he's been
You
the
want
plug.
that? You want that? You want that?
I'm
yeah.
that guy again.
Roll with us, man. Roll with us. And that the little tiny stupid things like that is what makes you. But you don't forget. You lean on them. And all these people through the 80s, I sussed out that right from now on, every gig I do, I'm promoting it.
Yeah.
Not because I wanted the money, because I wanted the control.
Yeah.
I wanted the control. I never wanted to be that guy who someone said will walk in a club and bully you to play a record. I don't care what they're playing down the road. This is what we play here. It's the only way you could protect your own environment. You know what I mean? So I always ran clubs. I ran a lot of different Dance Wicked, Under the Arches in Vauxhall was in the 80s. It started at Electric Ballroom. One of my scratch DJ guys was one of the promoters, and then we moved it to, and it was a legendary gig. You need to ask someone who's 40 about that gig, because we used to put a lot of people in the Arches illegally. And Giles Peterson played, and Jules played for us, and Jazzy played, and it was great.
Seems much more fun back then with the party
Yeah, for
essence and
real.
stuff like that. Now
really
it seems
was.
more.
I'm not going to be one of, but I'm not going to be one of them people who says, like people say to me, come on, hip hop in the old days was way better than trap today.
Yeah.
And they always do this because when I was that age, I was saying electro funk was the shit. Electro funk. I loved electro go-go, and people say that is rubbish. That is nonsense. Planet Rock's what everyone knows, but there's so many other tunes. And I used to go nuts to it. I used to dress like a freak, you know what I mean? So love it. But looking back, I get why people say this is nonsense. Soul Boy, this is rubbish. Yeah. So now I'm getting the same thing. Every generation in the 90s when Bad Boy were doing their thing, people go, they're all samples, man, rubbish.
Yeah.
It's all samples, it's rubbish. That is rubbish. And now people looking back on it so affectionately, like, what's happened to music? That was so good in the 90s.
But during that,
every decade I hear this. So I'm very... there's only one music type that I would say I saw the demise of in no time. That was dubstep. I always saw that they were rushing that so quick. compilation albums came out in no time.
Yeah.
People were on the radio, dubstep, you know, before. I'm sure
It got silly. I think
got
dubstep
silly.
only exists in Miami right now.
It got silly.
It
oversaturated, man. Definitely got oversaturated.
Same with a lot of scenes, though. A lot of scenes did that. But we're hungry here. We're impatient. In America, they stick with a style a lot longer than we do. We are very impatient. We like to mix things up quickly and. You know, 1 minute it was jungle, next minute it was UK garage, and then it was speed garage, and then it was something else, then it was bassline, then it was this, then it was this. You're like, whoa,
And
whoa.
this is all within the last decade.
If you're in a different postcode, you've got a different style of music. It was like,
true.
you know, and a postcode could be just across the road. You know, so, you know, lots of things, man.
I think that's the perfect time to take a break. Speaking of impatience, we're quite desperate for a little
Toilet
veggie
break.
Yeah, I agree.
When we come back, we'll speak about a couple of things that are going on right now. In fact, we'll speak a little bit about.
Yeah, definitely, and more recent stuff.
Absolutely. Cool. Join us for the shorter half. Right, so we are back. A very, very quick break, man, because we just want to get straight back into things. We've got Trevor Nelson joining us here for episode 039 of TBC Podcast. You are listening to GRM Daily. This has become a bit of a masterclass for us. I think this is a privilege that we
definitely.
in this room are sharing right now because if you listened, I'm sure you did listen to the first half, you've got some absolute gems. And my mic's apparently facing the wrong way, so apologies if the volume was low.
You never
for that
sounded
part.
better, Michael.
Thanks very much. Thanks for coming from you, mate. That's an absolute an honour. We first met at the it was Maida Vale Studios for Radio 1 when Ed Sheeran, quite at the beginning of his career after he blew up, but after he got signed, he was doing a live lounge, collaborations number 5 live lounge, and it's nice to now sort of come full circle and be the broadcaster interviewing one of my heroes. You know,
You're definitely one of my heroes, man.
Thank you, mate. You never think so, Ren.
Nah, on a level, I'll be honest with you, I used to go home and watch the lick. Like, that was my highlight of my week.
Generationally,
was the highlight of my week.
You know, you were a household name for myself, my older sister, even my parents knew about it.
But you know what's funny, though? I was aware through every single minute of how important us just being on telly was.
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you?
Totally.
When I was I got a job in the record industry. I actually got invited in to work actually in. When I say industry, I mean the big house.
Yeah.
Right, and it was a bit against. It was like the devil's house to me because I spent my whole youth buying imported records that never got released in this country because people didn't believe in them, or British acts that had a hit and then didn't get the support they wanted, all this sort of stuff. So I always thought the industry, they just don't care about our music, you know, this sort of thing. So when I got in there, I thought, right, I'm going to try and sign me a catalogue artist, an artist that I believe is going to can write songs. I wanted singer-songwriters. That's all I wanted. I wanted singers. And I found this guy, Lyndon David Hall.
Jeez.
Right.
Do I qualify?
Yes,
this album's
sir.
cold. Sorry.
That's a soul man.
Listen.
And he was, honestly...
God bless his soul, man.
If you heard of Loose Ends, they were like one of the first... In the 80s, they were a great group. They inspired Soul to Soul a lot, actually. They sold in America more than
to
they
the
sold
point
here.
where people thought they were American. For a while, I thought Loose Ends were American.
And the production was so on point. Carl McIntosh, Danny D did some remixes. It was great. And... you know, and they did okay. They were signed to Virgin. Virgin was a good label for that kind of thing. So ended up on Virgin.
Yes.
And I was at EMI, which is like Britain's label, which is the, you know, traditionally EMI, Beatles, home of the Beatles, Kate Bush, people like that. Iron Maiden, I think, were on EMI. People like Cliff Richard was on EMI. You know, it was like that sort of a label. But it was going through a big turmoil, a lot of turmoil at the time, and I found it really difficult to work under that situation. Now, we had a band, Eternal. They weren't my band, they were on the EMI label. My label was Cool Tempo, which was a smaller label off it. And I saw how that worked. There's a lot of money thrown at that. They were good, but there's a lot of money going, swirling around, videos, a lot of money, big money. And I thought, oh, not me. I want to grow something. So I found Lyndon. Lyndon was very shy, boy from South London. He had loads of demos. And one of his demos literally made me cry when I heard it off a tape. He did them all in his bedroom and that. And it's called There Goes My Sanity. And I could totally relate to that tune in terms of the title. Every one of us around this table is going to have a moment when that tune, just the title of that tune means something to them.
Yeah.
When you think it's going. Do you know what I mean? Your raison d'etre ain't your raison d'etre.
Yeah.
You're not quite sure what you're doing.
Yeah.
Why you're here, why people don't get you,
Yeah.
or why people can't appreciate you. This sort of thing.
It's a daily thing for a lot of people.
It's a ceiling, it's a full stop, it's the lid shutting on you. That feeling. It's quite claustrophobic. If you get out of it, you're winning.
You're winning, of course.
It doesn't matter if it's just breathing, having a job, whatever, you're winning. But you get to that point, and I thought this kid's amazing. But he's so shy, he's so introvert. And he's a handsome boy, he didn't even see it. Yeah. He had locks, he had Timberlands on, he had a big old coat. He wasn't this sexy looking guy. And when I say locks, I don't mean just locks.
Yeah.
Just like
Just that now.
just them sort of, there's a book, right? Them locks. And he cleaned it all up, and we signed him. I had to convince my boss that he was worth signing. And the funny thing is, we put a showcase on for him, and he was singing. He was again really shy. And my boss had signed Babylon Zoo. I don't know if you remember a tune called Spaceman. It was on the jeans advert. Spaceman. It was the fastest selling single in the history of British music at that point. In 1 week, fastest selling number one, biggest selling number, bam. And my boss, he was into stars.
Yeah.
He knew a star. His dad was Don Black, who wrote Diamonds Are Forever and Ben for Michael Jackson and things like that. His dad is a big lyricist, a legendary lyricist, incredibly successful.
Yeah.
So he spots stars, he likes stars. Lyndon didn't look like one. Lyndon looked like a shy guy with talent. And then he did something, he had this blue, I think he had a blue electric guitar. And for one song in the showcase, I was looking at my boss, I was thinking, he ain't gonna sign him. Then he put the guitar around his neck, started playing it and sung. And then he went, because the guitar's a crutch for a lot of musicians. And when you've got your tool, you just look so much better and comfortable. And we signed him. So we made this album. And we also had D'Angelo on the label.
Yeah.
But he was our American. So I had to work D'Angelo. Now this is the scary thing. So I had D'Angelo first. And everyone around this table will admit, if they know who D'Angelo is, he was like Frank Ocean of his day, but the original.
Yeah, of course.
Right? In terms of he shook up the industry. He brought soul back to the mainstream in America. Over here, trying to get Brown Sugar played on radio was so hard because it's so introvert, it's so slow, it's so cool.
Is it as subversive as I think it is?
Yeah.
It is about what I think it is, right? Okay, cool. Well, did that have an effect on... Was that
No, it was not a factor. Although the word brown ain't the best, But I don't think that was why. It was just radio didn't really get it, apart from a few specialists. So my job, I had to remix the record for radio. So I had to get remixers to remix the record as sympathetically as I could. Obviously, he ain't gonna love those remixes because he made them, but he kind of had to be persuaded that that's how we got to do it. And every country a couple of countries probably did a few remixes. And I'm just giving you an idea of what it's like out there. So imagine Frank Ocean brings out, give me a Frank Ocean song, anyone.
I've been thinking about you.
Novocaine.
All right. Thinking about you. That's a beautiful song.
A tornado.
Right, you stop right there.
Potato
That, hello, that would have to be remixed to have got played on radio in those days. There were very few people outside of specialist radio would have played that. It wouldn't have made any daytime playlists or anything like that. And so I imagine how Frank would have felt. Some guy don't know is commissioning a remix on his tune in order to get... But I'm doing it for the greater good. But that's where we were. So with Lyndon, and I did that with D'Angelo. So with Lyndon, it was like, Lyndon's delivered his album. I'm like, Lynn, this is... we whittled it down from 70 songs he'd written. Wow. Half the songs he'd written, he never really completed properly. Yeah. Like, what I say by properly, I mean from a radio and successful standpoint, I thought that line wasn't quite right or that hook's not right. But the thing about him, he won't change anything. That was it. That's how I felt. That's how I wrote it. So I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, you got to respect that.
Like in Do I Qualify, there's a line that says, you think I'm ugly as sin or something, or I may look like a king. And I just didn't like that line.
You think I'm ugly as sin, and he may look like a king, but I don't love you the way I do.
Yeah, and I thought that line was a bit like a 5-year-old writing something, you know.
Yeah.
Ugly as sin, look like a king. But you remembered it.
It works, man.
Right. That's why it made it on the record, right? And that's why it was his first single. But I had to tell him, dude, we haven't got it yet. And it's the hardest thing to do.
Serious.
Yeah, I said, we need, I didn't want to say, we need a single, dude.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, he looked at me like, you're my soldier in here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need any, but I said, just go back, come back, you're right, you know, because he could write. He came out with 4 songs. 4 songs in like a week. And we're playing them 100 Heart Attacks. I like that. Something else. And then I heard, dunna. My, sexy Cinderella. Oh,
it's almost midnight. Hey,
I've been dying to kiss you under the moonlight. Sexy Cinderella.
I can't even hit the notes. It's almost midnight.
Hey!
Right.
Bro,
So I'm sitting in my A&R chair, right? And I'm peeing my pants a bit, going, oh, we got something. God, and that is such a tune. Yeah. And he, as he did it on a demo, like an 8-track or something like that, he did. It's almost how we released it. Yeah. It didn't make. He had a little echo going on. Oh, and in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I know what's going to happen here. I'm going to get a lot of specialists going to love this. I gave it straight to Choice FM straight away because they were all over it straight away. That's their kind of tune. But I thought, Radio 1, are they going to play that? No, not really. Have to remix it a bit, you know. And I didn't want to remix it because I love the original. But I had to remix it.
Game's the game, innit?
CJ McIntosh was my sympathetic remixer. I used him for D'Angelo and Lyndon. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking more America.
Okay.
I said, this is a hit in America.
100%.
This tune is a hit in America. But EMI was such a shit show at the time. The American company was a mess. The English company was going through lots of turmoil. We got a gold album. He sold 100,000 plus albums. And that's the first album I ever executive produced, ever. You know, A&R. So I was really proud of it. It was a real struggle. But after 5 years of being at EMI, 2 years as a club promotions guy, 3 years doing A&R, the opportunity came to go on MTV for me. I was already on Radio 1.
Yeah.
And I felt, I don't want to play my own records because I'm the guy with the big show for R&B, so I kept giving them to other people first.
Fair enough.
Which doesn't help my artists.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't sign him, I'd be all over that.
Yeah, of course, you'd be the one spinning it. Yeah.
So I felt a little compromised. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, Tong was doing his thing. He had FFRR, and it was all right. I wasn't comfortable. So the moment MTV came in with an offer to do a show. That was the end of my record company days.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I said, I had to, this is decision number 4.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going on big decisions to you, right? I didn't want anyone ever to accuse me ever of playing a record as a favour, as part of a job, in terms of, you know?
Yeah.
My label offered me, I was on 32 grand a year.
That's all right.
I was head of A&R, dude.
Right.
The guy next to me was on 100 and something. And I used to give him tips on who to get to remix things. I didn't care.
Why do you think that is though? Sorry to cut you.
Because I didn't try. I didn't go into my boss and say I want money because then you've got to deliver hits. And if you've got to deliver hits,
pressure.
You end up making throwaway music that means nothing. Look, I mentioned Sexy Cinderella, all of you started going into one because it means something to you.
Yeah.
So it meant something that we made that. Lyndon, rest in peace. He's not here anymore.
Bless his soul, man.
But look, he left. His legacy's intact. That album you said is a great album. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, for me, it became a battle of my conscience. It's like my dad. I told you, my dad never sold a policy he didn't have.
Of course.
I love music so much. I loved it when I was skint. Now that I was in a position to be a bit of a... Listen, I had guys joining record labels because they started thinking, let's hire some black guys now. You know what I mean? There's a few of us scattered around. Everyone wanted a bit of a black label sort of thing. These guys getting their MX cars, just taking girls out at lunch. just showing off, getting a company car. I was thinking, no, you ain't in it for the right reasons, dude.
Of course.
You know, I'm in it trying to do the right thing. But I jumped at the chance to go to MTV only because I knew it was more important that I was at MTV. It was more important. We used to argue, all my mates at record labels, Mickey D, Matt Ross, Lincoln, everyone, we don't get enough TV. There was a chart show, which is one video show on telly, on Channel 4, where unless you're in the top 30, you ain't going to get played. MTV weren't exactly doing their quota of our music.
Yeah, of course.
You had the box at the time, getting more people watching the box than MTV who liked black music, hip hop and R&B, because you could pay for your tune by phoning up. Yeah. And you know in about 4 songs' time you might see it. Yeah. And Busta Rhymes was born on the box. You know,
a lot of people were born on the box.
A lot of people were born on the box. And I just thought, we need a telly show. And I'd already, but the thing that most of you don't know about MTV, I actually went to an audition before they hired me a year. You know when Richard Blackwell first appeared on MTV? Yeah. They were auditioning for that.
What was that date thing? What's that date thing again? You gas to go.
Select.
He had no. This is what people don't remember. Richard Blackwood had a show called Bass. Or something like that, right? I'll tell you what happened. I was working at the record label. I had a show on Radio 1. So I had a full-time job at the record label. I couldn't do MTV in my head. I couldn't do it, even if I got it. But I wanted to go and tell them what the fuck's wrong with them. So I went up there, and the guy's about to shoot me, you know, just say some stuff, man, you know. Why don't you show more black videos?
Is that what you said straight away, yeah?
Straight away.
Amazing.
Straight.
Why don't you show more black videos? I don't understand. Why are we watching the box? And why is your Amore show, I just wasn't, because I knew I couldn't get it even if they offered it to me. I went, guy looked at me and says, didn't you want to do this? I went, and I went, I didn't know what happened. Then I saw Richard Blackwood on telly. So obviously he was built for it. So when I got a call about a year and a half later. I didn't even have an agent properly or anything like that. They said, MTV want to see you. I said, what? They're going to have some models there, are they? Some models. They have some models auditioning, then little skinny ass me comes along who's all about music and I ain't going to get it. So, you know, but the models, they're going to look real good, right? Yeah, I'm MTV, right? Which is how it was. Yeah, it was like that. So it's, no, I think they're really interested. I said, what? And then I found out there was a producer, a big-time producer at Radio 1. Never worked with her. I'd seen her before, but I never worked with her. She got a big job at MTV. And they realised they really need, because the success of my show on Radio 1, she was like, you know, we need a show like this on. And I know the guy who could do it. So she dropped my name without me. And then the guys doing the filming knew of me, of course, yeah. I went up there. So I had a cold. I had my coat on. And I can say this knowing this is true. I had a scarf, I think. So do you want to take it off now?
Such a boss, man.
No, I'm sorry. When it comes to my music, right? So I went, no. And then I noticed there's a black guy holding the camera this time. I'm like, I kind of bald-headed black guy. This is Sherwin Beckford, by the way. I'm like, I got a brother here. So he's like, all right, just do a countdown or something, like to pretend you're doing a chart. And I really did a chart show on Radio 1, so it was easy for me. He said, you're right. I said, yeah, I got cold, man, but, you know. I said, Black Street in at number 10, blah, 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 blah. All right? And then I went. As I went, this guy, Maxwell Hare, coming out of the dressing room, about to go and do his audition.
What, Maxwell, the Maxwell?
He looked like, no. He had a Maxwell look. And there's a couple of other guys waiting, so I thought, see, they're just trying to dupe me. One of these are going to get it, right? Because MTV at that time, I saw an interview that has stayed with me forever. Forever. I'll never forget it. It was the Fugees. And the Fugees were my group, right? Before the Fugees was Arrested Development. That was my group before then. The Fugees, a couple of moments from their first album, unbelievable. Then they came out with the score, right? And the score, unbelievable. So this girl is interviewing the Fugees, a VJ, yeah? And all VJs, they all stand up. Very few people were sitting down on MTV. Everyone liked to present standing up. And just moving around. Sorry,
Like they're doing
squeaky
something.
chair. Yeah, but this girl was
charismatic.
glamorous. She was nice. So she's interviewing the Fugees. First question. Pras, hey, you found a group, right? Yeah, well, you know, Clef's my cousin, and, you know, I go to college with Lauren, and I introduced Lauren to Clef, and we got together and we're the Fugees.
Yeah.
Why, Clef? You are the genius of the group, right? Well, Haitian Nation or something like that. He'd go, yeah, ask him some genius question. Goes to my queen, yeah? My queen, Lauren Hill.
El Boogie.
All right? Lauren, I like your shoes. Boom.
Whoa.
So I'm watching this. Maybe I took it. Maybe I took it to. Maybe I just took it to heart too much. And it's not her fault. She's been pop, isn't she? But to me, I could see right through Lauren there. Okay, Clef's the genius. Pras started the group. She likes my shoes. No, I'm the best singer rapper, female of my generation. That's what you're seeing here. Say something.
Yeah. Give me some props or something.
Say something about why. How come you sound so different? Even if you're pop and you don't get it, you don't. There's something about you. Say something.
Yeah.
That was
Compliment
the shoes.
the music
That was the
or
shoes.
something, yeah.
And I thought that's the problem with MTV, as far as I'm concerned, right? So when I got the show, I demanded to see the screen test. I said, "Let me see the screen test." They wouldn't show it to me because they knew it was toilet. It was rubbish. So we started the show, and Sherwin became one of my best friends. Sherwin and me, he was from Birmingham. He's a little bit younger than me, but same sort of generation. We just got on, and I said, look, I'll do the show on a few conditions. I knew, thank God, that I was old enough to sort this out. Because if I was 21, I wouldn't have said these things. I said, we'll name the show. I don't want to be called ever a VJ. I want to be seated. Yeah? And they said, yeah. And I want it to be filmed quite, different. Great. Sherwin was with me all the way. He agreed anyway. And so the first time we filmed it, I hated it, obviously. I watched it and I hated it. I'm watching yourself on telly. I was like... But the beautiful thing is I was the only one on camera. So no one ever had anyone to compare with me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like, I'm on camera. No, people thought I was 6'3".
Yeah, sitting on that sofa like a
I'm
boss.
sitting on the sofa, you know what I mean? You got to own
hands
it.
in and that.
I realised also that no one wants to see a nervous-looking guy on telly. No one wants to spend. No one likes. You don't pay money to go and see a concert, and the person you're paying to see looks nervous. You want to see someone who looks like they're in control. And so I remember I'd already hit 30 when I joined MTV. A lot of people don't know that. Because I got this sort of baby sort of face, I'm surprised my nickname was never Babyface Nelson. Right? But no, because when I joined, I was the oldest presenter, I believe, or the second oldest presenter on MTV when I joined. And I'm talking about people who've been there for years. Yeah. So the perception was probably I was 23 or 24, maybe 25. I was already 30. So I had this sort of knowledge in my head about stuff, which made me comfortable talking about my music.
Yeah, exactly.
Which made me look like I had a bit of an authority.
Yeah.
But, and that, I think that came through. Then all of a sudden I'm talking and I'm saying to Sherwin, dude, I don't like the camera on me all the time. Like, can't we, because I do radio and people know my voice, why don't we just move the camera around? So they start doing these moves off my face.
Yeah, mad panning.
Yeah, mad panning. And then then I started bringing an item of clothing in from home, like a shirt, and just hang it. And everyone's like, what's the shirt about?
There's always something in the background.
Just so that you're not watching me, but you could always hear me talking. Because I was talking about, it wasn't all just about new stuff, it was also about, do you remember what happened to, and then we'll show some Bobby Brown, and it was great seeing a throwback video. Because
loads of cutaways.
9 out of 10, you never saw that video in your
it's true.
life. So I knew what we were doing. We got the news from America, which was unbelievable. We never had the internet just started kicking in.
ADSL, man, that dial-up shit.
But it's about having, and I had a great team with me. They were so good. And, it was magic, mate. I'm telling you. I knew what was going on. I said, after the first few shows, I said, I'll bet you any money. Everyone who's got MTV, first of all, I started with black. Anyone black with MTV is going to be watching this show.
They have to. I was watching that shit.
They have to, because there's no show like this. And then anyone who likes hip hop or R&B will probably watch this show. And that's when I think a wave of Asian kids started really feeling confident. When we did the parties, they all come out and we had a great mix of people at our parties, white, black, Asian. You know what I mean? It was great.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I went into MTV the next day and I said, well, before we start the show, I said, okay, you give me the show. Where are you going to advertise it? You're going to do billboards. I was naive. I thought it's like Channel 4. They're going to do big bill. No. So where are you going to promote it? On the station, they said. I said, but no one I know watches your station. Only a few people watch your station because you don't play our music.
Yeah, it's the truth.
So how are people going to know? Forgetting that whole thing of, actually, convert them, Trev, some of them. But, so I said, we need to do something, you know. And the one thing I do a lot of is clubs. And I know that if I do a party, I will print 10 times as many flyers as people can fit in a club. So if the club holds 1,000 people, I'm doing 10,000 flyers minimum.
Yeah.
Why don't we do parties, I said, and do flyers and have the show times on the flyers. And because people collect flyers if you make them collectible enough.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant reminder that, but I was going to say Sundays 2 to whatever, Wednesdays, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I said, oh, you should work in marketing. All 4 of them sitting there getting paid, not one of them having any brainstorm. I said,
It's common sense.
I think we've all worked in, I think, you know, my scene, that's what we do. We just, you have to if you're not eating. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Hustle hard.
And so the parties were born. And they got so much kudos from the parties and everything was great and it went on. We did
the lick parties, right?
Yeah.
And you used to show the footage of them on the lick
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Like,
You know what we were doing. You know what I was doing.
These parties are so lit,
You made them legendary. I never had the pleasure of attending.
We made them legendary.
You wanted to go to
We
one.
made them legendary for people who were like 13, 14, 15 watching
was
going,
me.
I want to
Yeah.
go to one of those
I think
parties.
my sister might have lied to me a couple of times
Yeah.
and she went, but she never
Well,
really. That's how good they were.
But yeah, but that was the idea, you know, and, you know, you film people and it's like reality telly, isn't it? It's like you're filming people looking fly, looking good, having a great time, and you're thinking, where is this?
Yeah.
Because where I am, it's moody. It ain't like that.
Yeah.
And then those people that were at the party know they're going to be on TV, so they're going to then
They're going to
watch
be on
it.
TV.
Yeah.
We
Trying their
filmed
best.
10 times as many as we showed. So, yeah, and it was all working, and I knew the effect it was having. I really did. It was great. I had the best party of all time in Dublin after an MTV Awards. It was the best. I don't think anyone will ever experience what I experienced that day.
Yeah.
Because we had all the Americans over and they all performed for nothing.
That's life.
At my, we had the Honeys. Do you remember that group, the Honeys?
Yeah, of course.
We booked the Honeys. They were the only group we booked, right? We had the Honeys doing a PA at the party. The party was sold out. We had there were 5 other parties in Dublin that night. There's an official MTV party.
Yeah.
The word got out. There was posters around town. I'm doing a lick party. Puffy's in town, so Puffy comes. Puffy comes. Check this out. I'll bring you the DVD one day, and you can look at it. It's mad.
I want to see that.
I have not put it up online or anything, but I've got a full DVD of this party, perfectly filmed. So Puffy comes up. Everyone's happy. I think it was at that point, 1999, when hip hop, R&B was truly peaking.
Well, it was.
Because MTV Awards, and I'll go through it. You'll crack up. So Puffy comes on. He's not stupid. He's touring in Dublin in about 3 months' time. It's a Dublin venue. It's Ram, right? These kids pay €15 to get in, right, or something like that, or maybe less, maybe 12. So he looks at me. He says, "You got my money, no problem." I said, "Yep." So I'm on the decks, and I'm just like, Everyone's like, "What?" So Puffy's like, Puffy does Mo Money, Mo Problems off vinyl. I'm playing vinyl. Mariah comes in. Mariah then does Heartbreaker. This is no word of a lie. I am
and
not.
you know what it is? 99. That's when it dropped.
99. She does Heartbreaker, right? Kills it. Mary comes in.
How much for this DVD, sucker?
Mary then
I'll
does.
buy it off you, man.
Mary does Real Love. I ain't done yet. Missy comes in.
You're lying!
Missy does She's a
And you got this
Bitch.
one
Missy's
recorded?
so shy, she wouldn't perform on stage. She jumped in the crowd and did She's a Bitch, right?
Wow.
TQ had his one hit, West Side.
Of course, yeah.
TQ was there. TQ was in, he does the West Side. Bobby and Whitney.
You're lying, no, you're lying!
I'm not lying. Together, walked on stage. I'm standing behind the decks looking at Dodge going, Dodge, is this happening? Right? Bobby and Whitney wouldn't sing. They wouldn't sing anything.
Yeah.
I think there was a bit, but they wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then my boy Lyndon was there, so Lyndon does Sexy Cinderella.
Come on, shut it down.
And then the honeys had to do this track after all that. But it's not the point. I stood there and I said, this is 1999.
Prince predicted this.
This is 1 year. This is 1 year after I've joined MTV. I joined in 88. This is 18 months. These people have done all this for nothing. They all came on and performed for nothing at our party. I sat down when everyone had gone. I sat down next to Dodge. And I honestly said this to him. I said, Dodge, I ain't never going to DJ at a party again. That is the last time. That's how I want it to go. That's how I want to go out. That is it. I meant it. He looked at me, he said, you shut up. I said, no, bruv, listen. What happened? That is it. That is what you saw there. It's like some sort of mad affirmation. They've come to our
That's crazy.
Our land.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that in America together.
No way.
They don't like
Not
each other. These people don't. They were beefing publicly. You know, talking about Whitney in the same place as Mariah. You know,
Yeah, of course.
and Mary, Whitney, and Mariah in the same place, right? But they were all loving it, and I said, and that's the first time in my whole career, I will tell you now, that I actually looked in the mirror and smiled and said, "Yeah, bruv." You know, you've done something. You've done. I'm gonna find it and give it to you.
I need to see this, man.
No, I'd love one of you lot to upload it without saying it's me. Uploading it because I've got loads of stuff like that.
We'll talk off air, Trevor.
But that was a moment. That was a real moment. But a really bad moment happened a few years later. So the lick parties were going really well. MTV decided we want to take them off you.
What?
Because we were running them.
Yeah.
But they
want some of that.
they ain't paying me loads of money to do the show, so I'm earning money the way I always earn money, which is doing parties, you know.
Yeah.
And no one ever begrudges you getting paid if you give them a good time.
Yeah.
People don't. People begrudge you if you're getting paid and they don't have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, you're just herding them into any old place. You know, but I won't
money,
do that.
yeah.
I pride myself on not being like that. So, you know, but the MTV took it over and I said, okay. They don't really get our culture. And they don't realise the negative side of the culture. And the thing that I'm saying is whenever I do something, I think of the very worst and I hope for the best.
Of course.
But if you put everything in place, the worst never tends to happen. So one time I did a party in Bournemouth. The first time they took over the parties. When I got to the venue, it was about 11:45. There's no one outside. I said,
What, they took over like the flyer?
no, the running.
running.
Because by this time it was like, as soon as we announced it,
Yeah, don't need no flyers.
it was gone,
Set.
you know? So we did, this is the midweek in Bournemouth. There's still 1,000 people in there. I went downstairs, everyone was in. I said, boy, how'd they get in so quick? Because we had a rigid process with our people. You know, you get to a lick party early because you're going to get searched properly.
Yeah.
And everyone liked to see that.
Yeah.
They obviously didn't search anyone. Someone got shot dead that night. I've never, ever had an incident at a lit party. That night, someone got shot because someone, I think, went back to their car. Now, people drove in from everywhere. They weren't Bournemouth people. And the guy obviously thought, they ain't searching people. I'll go back to my car. And he shot some guy. And my face was all over the Southwest papers. It was all about me, you know. And I was on a list along with So Solid that year. We know when So Solid were banned.
Yeah.
I was on the same list. Any gig I did, police turned up in droves or tried to shut it down or whatever. I couldn't even do unis. I couldn't do unis on campus. I'd get booked and then the organiser would call me and say, uni's cancelled. We're going to have to cancel you, Trev, because we've got to pay for police and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know.
That's so fucked up. So they fucked your shit up.
Well, but I can't blame them.
Yeah.
They know no better. But I'm saying it's not a coincidence, right? It's like, that's why I say you've got to control the controllables. The moment you get a chance in life, you have to control the controllables. Or else, you know, you'll always be, I wonder what, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
And so that was the darkest moment of my career, because that boy's family were I was told don't comment. It had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, of course.
I wasn't even on the decks at the time. We just heard cut, you know, we heard something. And next minute, Rachel, my co-promoter's got this guy's head in her lap, you know, just trying to, it was a horrible thing. And you know, a lot came my way, but I just kept quiet, you know, and I didn't feel responsible. Do you get what I mean? But
Well, you shouldn't know,
but you feel
you empathise
I felt I
with
should be, but I couldn't. It was out of my control. It was just something that could have happened anywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, it really changed me a lot. So we stopped the lick parties. We stopped them a little bit after that. We did one for the tsunami appeal, but we stopped them because there's no way. I mean, that was a cash cow for me if I wanted it to be forever, but I refused. There's a whole generation like you lot, never been.
Yeah, I would die.
Who would love me to throw one, but I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't, not because of what happened, but I think I believe in shutting nights down. I believe in shutting. How many times have you been somewhere and you went until it was rubbish?
Quite a few places.
That's so
Right.
true, isn't it?
Now, if they were shut down in their prime, you'd never be able to say it got rubbish.
It's true.
You'd just go, oh man, remember that place?
Yeah, that's what we're
and
saying.
forever, you could be 70 years old.
true.
You two could be sitting down in a room when you're 70 years old and go, remember when we used to go?
It's true.
And that's what I've got with the lick, luckily. So I'll never ever do another one.
Yeah.
And I'll never, you've got to know when to. You got to know when to leave somewhere, and leave something alone, So
This is mad.
How did you come up with the lick? The name.
right, that was a good. That was. It was a saying. It was a small saying at the time. It never got as rabid as some of the other sayings we get. You see something like lit now. The way people say lit. It never got to that point though. People, you'd hear it a couple of times.
My older cousins used to
but it
use
was
it and that,
never. It was never epidemic like lit
Or blood,
yeah, never like that. So, and I always liked it. I always liked it.
That tune is the lick.
There was a guy. I think there was a guy called Mark Tonderwright who actually said it or used it in a program, a late night BBC thing once. I knew Mark. Mark was a Radio 1 DJ before me. We never knew each other, but I knew of him. And that's the only time I'd ever heard it used outside of a couple of my friends. Now, the thing I liked about the word was that if you never heard it used in that context, you totally understood.
Oblivious.
So people used to say, people would say, come on college and go, what'd you do at the weekend? Oh man, I went to see Arsenal play, rubbish, And then what'd you do, Bex? I went to this party. Oh man, this party was a lick. Now, even if 4 people had never heard anyone say that, they knew.
It's true.
They knew the way you said it, what it meant, and also the connotations of the lick. Sexy. It's very sexy. It's very sexy. It's very sexy, and it's very black, but it's also everyone will get it, and that was it.
Inclusive,
You know my biggest mistake? I never owned it.
Never trademarked it.
MTV, once you do something on MTV, they own everything. I never owned it. So I had to beg. I went up to see the MD, and I remember going up to him, and I sat him down, and I said, I'm not a big entrepreneur, right? But I know when I'm onto a good thing. I said, mate, let me say something to you. He was a Dutch guy. I said, and all he said is, it's a nice watch, and he's a bit shallow. And he said, I said, I've never ever worked with a brand, and that wasn't even a term being used much, or with anything as hot as this. Honestly, mate, this is the most intact thing I've ever been associated with, and I know people see it as me, but they do see it as theirs. You know what I mean? Because I know everyone's watching it every week, and they see it as I'm just the guy bringing it to them, but it's theirs. It's our music. So, and I said, on my scene, no one is ever bigger than the artist. It's not like the house scene. Where you got DJs bigger than artists.
Of course.
Because the artists are quite invisible. You ain't bigger than R. Kelly, you ain't bigger than Usher, you ain't bigger than Mary J, you ain't bigger than Fugees. You're just the messenger, right? And he went, right, what's your point? And I said, well, we go out to loads of countries, right? I get loads of letters every week. Letters, people writing letters I got people writing from Africa saying, 30 of us all meet together at my friend's house, 5 miles away. He's the only one with satellite to watch you on a Wednesday night.
I believe that.
In Paris, I got it from Paris, I got New Zealand, I got all over the world, outside North America, because we weren't shown in America. We still thought we did a better show than they did, but we weren't shown in there. Yeah, we couldn't.
Did they have a lick version in America?
No, they had their own, they had Sway, didn't they?
Oh,
That's Sway. So, and I was like, I said, we could do merch, we could do anything here. I could have done beats before beats, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't want to do all that. I just wanted to see what he thought. And he just shut it down. He shut it down completely. And I couldn't do anything with it. I spent ages trying to work out how I could use that brand obviously and control it because I wouldn't want them to control it with cool items or cool things, you know, turntable stuff, you know, stylus holders or just cool shit. Things that you need, a little hat, a little beanie with little, you know, just cool stuff, not trying to change the world. Got shut down and I never owned the name, never owned it. I owned the name, I think lick parties I could own. Right. But I don't agree I should ever do a lick party unless it's shown on MTV, unless I'm doing a show on MTV at the time, and unless all the ingredients are right, and they're not, so I'm never going to do it again, ever.
Next year will be 20 years though, right? 98.
It was not, I was there 98, I was there for 12 years.
Yeah.
It was the longest running show on MTV at the time.
Well, it was one of the best, to be honest. That's the only show I used to watch, man.
I think they should have kept a version of it and let some new dudes do it, because isn't it funny, the moment it comes off air, the British scene is at its biggest.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Isn't that funny? It's biggest when we could have just had British stars, and you know, all them kids wanted to be on there, and it would have been a great opportunity.
Yeah, it was an
for all of them.
aspirational thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It could have become like the urban Jules Holland.
So I had. All I remember is in terms of the more recent scene, it was Kano putting K on was great. Dizzy. We you know, Dizzy already had Boy in the Corner out, and you know, again, because it didn't fit on radio, I couldn't really play much Dizzy. I think I played Fix Up, Look Sharp. The rest of the stuff was mental. You know what I mean? To play an R&B show, it wasn't what you. But Zayn obviously bigged him up. But we had him on, and he was one of them guys that said, "Yes, bruv, about time, yeah." Before the interview, he was like, "Yeah." I Chip when he was a real Ute, and I said, and I Tinchy. And we had a few, you know, and it was nice. It was nice, but that should have continued. You know, today it should be Stormzy, it should be all these guys. They should be getting the show they really want to be on. Yeah. Rather than always having to be on something where you've got to say, yeah, by the way, I'm a Grime MC and I'm Stormzy or I'm some, you know, always having to explain yourself. There should be that show where you've actually got a big audience and it's around the world. And you're on because you're hot. You know what I mean? End of story.
That is the perfect segue, actually, because that kind of brings us up to the present day, and we are actually recording this episode on the same day as the Brits. Yeah. At which Stormzy reportedly, you know, he's obviously already been nominated. I don't know if he's won anything, but he's been nominated. He's come out and performed with Ed Sheeran, reportedly. What's your take on Grime's inclusion at the Brits? Do you think that it is inclusion to prevent backlash, or do you think that it's genuine recognition of the genre, acknowledgement of the success, the hard work, the acknowledgement from everywhere else?
At whose expense? Stormzy and Kano and Skepta in there. Who are the three British males?
Got left out.
We're talking about best British male, right? You have to ask yourself, who are the three British males whose spot they're taking?
I can't think of one.
Right. So they're there. They're justifiably there.
Yeah.
And that's the answer to your question in a nutshell. I've been to the Brits possibly 15 to 20 times in my capacity as either you know, working for a label or radio or MTV or whatever. I always got invited, or my company bought, you know, tickets. And can you imagine what it's like being Brits year in, year out? It's like being invited to the Smash Hits poll winners party for adults. Yeah. Right? For me. But it was a chance also to be seen and network with a lot of other execs from other labels, because there's parts you've got to play if you're going to survive in this game. You've sometimes just got to be seen. And that's the biggest night of the year for all the execs. And to be honest, when everyone's performing, everyone's just chatting, because that's the only time they all get together. But they created an Urban Award. I don't know if you remember, a few years ago, because I gave it to Miss Dynamite, I think, one year. I think they might have had it for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. I think Dynamite got it one year, maybe Lamar one year. I can't remember. And then they scrapped it. Wow. There's two ways of looking at it. Should we have one back or not at the Brits? Because this is the problem when you do that. Jay-Z's always said the same thing. If you look at the Grammys this year, Beyonce won 2, I think. One for Best Video and one for Urban Album or something. Yeah. And Adele came up and said, look, what you did with that album, blah, 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 is amazing. Rah, rah, rah. It was a sick speech. I loved it. And she said, you know, and for my black friends, and some people had a problem with that. I didn't have no problem with that. I thought that was, she's from Tottenham. Come on, man. She's from Tottenham, you know. So Beyonce wants to win Best Album. She doesn't want to win Best Urban Album. And then you'd have a situation where if you had an urban category at the Brits, then it'd be Skepta, Kano, and all of them fighting out for a Brit that categorises them kind of, not makes them best male, makes them best male in a little category, in a smaller category.
And he creates that crabs in the barrel effect as well.
So I think it was good. I think it was healthy, and I think it was justified. Skepta won a Mercury. Kano made his best album since his debut. And
Skepta won Enemy as well last week.
And Enemy, of course. And sorry, who else is in it? Again, Stormzy's lighting up. Yeah, come on, Stormzy. Stormzy doesn't need an award, but if you give him one, great.
Yeah, he's got a few gongs.
You know, Rag and Bone,
various mobiles, BETs.
Yeah, exactly. So he's there, and I think
Rated Awards, Shad, GRM.
I don't think Stormzy's one of them here today, gone tomorrow artists either. You know, I think he's got a little bit more about him than that. So. No, I don't think it's quite like the... Well, it is a little bit like the Oscars. Remember the year they gave it to a load of black people?
Halle Berry,
for some
Denzel.
reason. Yeah, Halle Berry and Denzel. And Denzel won it for playing one of his most negative characters of all. And yet Malcolm X, he didn't win it for something. But you know, I remember, I don't think he won it for Malcolm X the year because I think Tom Hanks won it. Maybe, or did he, or someone like that. It was someone who beat him did something pretty special, so I'm not going to get hung up on that. I don't think the Brits was quite like the Oscars. I think the Oscars are a little shameful the way they did that. It was a bit obvious the way it was a bit blatant and a bit of a reaction.
That's showbiz.
I do believe this is a sign of the times. I think it's a different era we're living in. And, you know, Stormzy, you ask most kids, and they'll have an opinion on Stormzy. You know, Skepta has proven it. He's a vet, and he's peaking commercially now. Yeah, you know, and Kano for me is just he's my favourite ever MC from the UK. You know, so I'm glad to see Kano up there. So no, I don't think it's tokenism. It'd be interesting to see what happens next year. Look, if there were two of them, we'd be over the moon, right? 3 smacks of there's an agenda going on here, guys. You know,
Riley was there as well. I don't know if he was nominated, but,
but I don't know. I don't really. And you know what? I don't really care.
I was going to say, from a completely different perspective, do you think that it's even very important for Grime to be acknowledged at the Brits?
I
personally don't think people. A lot of people say it's a colour thing, and with the Brits, I personally don't, because Tiny Temper's won. And basically, I think it's just so much more an industry thing. You have to be the epitome of mainstream music and conform so much to that kind of daytime formula.
Exactly.
You are so visible that by default you're just the most successful in a thing.
Have you compromised your art form by being nominated? Have you compromised to get there? Have you had to compromise?
And what the great thing is that none of these the aforementioned artists like Skepta, Stormzy, or Kano have.
Exactly. That's my point.
Which is good. Yeah.
So that's why I say I don't care. I think the nomination will suffice. Yeah. Because it's acknowledgement of your existence, of your contribution. I don't always think winning is everything, you know. I mean, of course, winning is nice, but you know, we've got the mobile walls. Don't get me started, you know.
Yeah, please don't get.
You know, I've got 4 of them, and you know, in a category that I frankly could have won every year just because I was the biggest radio DJ in the country. I mean, so I used to plead with Kanye King, scrap that award, please. It's embarrassing to me. You know, honestly, I don't want to be Ant and Dec. Do you get what I'm saying? What's the point of that? Yeah, you know, it's like, I don't know. I think awards are really, I've got a ton of awards, I ain't lying, and they're in my house somewhere, right? I've just moved, so they're not out anywhere. But it's nice to get acknowledged. It really is. And I ain't gonna lie, if you're an artist, it's the most insecure business you could ever be in, being an artist. It's you know, when you put a tune out, you hope people like it. You know, you're telling everyone it's the shit, but you hope people like it. And if they don't like it, it's like saying, I don't like your mum, mate. You know, no, but you get what I mean. It is personal.
Yeah.
It is personal. So getting something extreme as an award must be fantastic, Bex.
Can I just ask? You've had the privilege of meeting like loads of like celebrities, like influential people.
Yeah.
Who's been your favourite to interview?
I watched your lick with Aaliyah.
You tell me, because if you've watched it, I don't. It's hard for me to keep
There's
saying.
too many, man.
The Aaliyah one. There's a weird
But the thing
story
is, Trevor,
attached
you
to
were
that, but
always
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, it's smooth, man.
It was hard to tell when you were really
I know. I was
enjoying
never.
it, 'cause you were always
All right.
so
Do you want the
fucking
truth?
cool,
Do you want the truth? 9 out of 10. When I knew I had an interview to do, I did not enjoy my day
Worrying.
from waking up. I'm somebody. I will throw a party, and you know what I'm praying for? 4 o'clock.
Finish time.
You know, I might enjoy playing the music. I might enjoy seeing everyone having a good time. But really and truly, I want 4 o'clock to come. I want to know it was good.
Yeah, it was.
It's the promoter in me. It's the guy. You know, I just want everyone to have had a good time. When people complain, we answer them. You know, we try. So when I know I've got Mariah Carey in the morning,
That's nice.
who is of all of them, the one that gets me sort of, and I've interviewed her a lot, right? But she gets me sort of, I know it's going to be a day. It's Mariah Day, yeah? So you just want to kind of get to the end of the day and get what's good. Not that, Mariah, if you're listening, it ain't like that. I'm just saying.
Mariah's a big fan of GRS.
But you know, and so Aaliyah, for example, that's the day I was looking forward to, right? Because I met her only, I think, 3 times in my life, right? But the first time she was actually 15. When she first came out. I remember her coming in a Tommy Hilfiger tracksuit thing, little tiny girl, tiny girl. Because there was 3 of them at the time, all young and amazing, and I met all of them. Monica was amazing. Brandy was actually my favourite. Just the voice was ridiculous. The voice, and Keith Crouch's production on. Oh, it was sick. Best Friend and Want to Be Down, and all. It was so deep. The production, it was fat. You play that now, it's still ridiculous fat. But Aaliyah was the one that they looked at as even when she was that young, she was the style icon. Because before Tommy Hilfiger came out with all these nonsense about black people and urban artists and hip hop, she was endorsed by Tommy. I think she was dressed like a boy. But she's beautiful, and she was so. And the one thing they were all of them were so measured in the way they spoke for teenagers. I knew they obviously went through training, unlike a lot of us lot over here, who when you're an artist and you make it, you're immediately thrown into the mire, and you don't go to finishing school so much. You know, they all did that. The Americans don't mess about. Yeah. I'm talking to Aaliyah at 14, 15. She's talking like she's 29, and I found it with all 3 of them.
Yeah. That tradition, it's age old, isn't it? Motown artists used to get sent.
Absolutely, and if you want to win, you've got to do that. And Puffy was very much like that, and a lot of them guys were like that. But when the one you're talking about, Bex, the one when she, it was months before she died, actually. I remember she had all those people that died on that plane were with her. They went everywhere with her. They were all going somewhere. I can't remember, but they were all sitting cross-legged.
From Barbados.
I'm not sure. Yeah, that's when she died. But before that, before Rock the Boat, I think the album. I was interviewing her based on this album that she was, you know, and they were all the coolest-looking people she rolled with. They're all cross-legged, waiting, you know, watching us doing this interview, and I'm interviewing her, and I'm looking at her, and I'm just going, "Damn, you're beautiful," and I'm not. That's in my head. This has to happen sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But I'm talking to her. I'm saying, "No, you're just a beautiful spirit." Just talking to you, she was so sweet and lovely, and we're literally face to face. If you remember, we're at a table, and we're just talking to each other. And she said, "Man, you know," afterwards she goes, "I'm going to be in Paris. I'm doing a show. You want to come to the show?" And rah 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 rah. And I went. I was so busy at the time, I couldn't go to the show. I was just so busy. I had probably gigs or something, you know, couldn't go to the show, and that's the last time I saw her.
Oh, man.
And it crushes me even saying it because it's like you just think you're going to see her again and again and again. And the thing I liked about her, she wasn't like, you see that Rihanna, with the world we live in with Rihanna, and I love Rihanna, right? This ain't a diss on her, it's just the world we live in. She's never stopped releasing records. Aaliyah was like, album, 4-year break. She was doing a Sade, which is what I loved about her. She was just like taking her time. She was the girl that was going to be there at the very end.
Of course.
That she was timing her. She can do a bit of acting, do a bit of this.
She was before Beyonce. A lot of people don't realise that. Like for me,
mate, I could. I don't want to sound like name drop, but all of these people you're mentioning. Yeah, but Beyonce. People say to me, "You met Beyonce?" Oh man, I couldn't be in a room without. Same room as Beyonce without just fainting. I said, mate. You could. I said, yeah, you could. Yeah, Beyonce, you could. I've seen Beyonce and them girls tuck away a KFC bucket, yeah?
From the hood.
Right? When they first come over, they were the funniest, loveliest girls.
The first
the very first. Yeah, a couple of times.
Yes.
They did parties for me. They did carnival. They were just real churchy, homely girls.
Yeah, Destiny Child's
from Houston. Houston, and Beyonce was. I always bonded with Kelly.
Kelly was my girl.
Kelly's got so much. She got so much personality. I mean, she's come and done shows with me. She co-hosted the Breakfast Show and One Extra for a week with me. You know, she's really funny. Beyonce was always Beyonce in her own, but she was lovely. She was just. I saw Beyonce as a really good church girl who just lived to perform, and she just lived to do what she does.
And then Dangerously in Love came out.
Yeah, but people always say, didn't you fancy her? She was always a little girl. To me, you don't fancy someone you watch grow up.
16, 17,
Yeah,
18,
you don't. And I said, no, I don't see her I see her as a performer. Beyonce will come on, and we did a couple of tours where I brought them on. Like, they were in Dublin, and there was one, they were at Finsbury Park, and I brought them on. And Beyonce, I used to say, she's just Tina Turner, man. When she walks, she does a Tina Turner walk, and she just performs, and that is not the girl you know off stage. Is not the girl. Trust me. She turns into a beast, and she can, and you know that. I look at Beyonce, I look at Rihanna, and I look at Rihanna, and I say, Rihanna would. Beyonce wouldn't.
Yeah.
All right?
That's the difference between them. Rihanna's bout it, like.
No, and I mean that's with them being on stage. You're looking at them and you're saying, yeah, everyone. I meet so many guys who crush on Beyonce all the time, and I say she's not. That's not what she's not like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many boyfriends Beyonce's had before Jay-Z. I reckon one.
It was one. Yeah, it was one. I read a little article and he's heartbroken at the moment. He's a chef in New York or something.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's why he's heartbroken.
Well, there you go. So I think she's amazing. You know what I mean? And I think the thing I like about she don't do interviews.
Yeah. Didn't Beyonce have a fling with someone?
That's all hearsay, bruv.
It's all hearsay.
Am I saying it's Marcus Hughes?
I don't know. I don't know. We won't know, though, will we?
That because Hove dropped a few subliminals in I think it was the 06 time, and if it's meant to be, then it'll be in
yeah.
Lost One.
Lost One's my tune, man. I love that tune. People don't understand about that tune.
I spot man again, yo.
About that tune. You play music. You play music on this podcast. You got to pay, ain't you?
Don't, but we do a segment called Track of the Week that Rebecca
Lost Ones, man.
Yeah,
I read a lot into that tune.
That's what it is, because obviously I'm a lyricist, so I'm listening to it, and it's like, if it's meant to be, then it will be.
The Kingdom Come, right?
Yeah. There's two tunes on there I really like that. There's Lost Ones and another one like that. But yeah.
The one with John Legend.
I can't remember what it's called. What's it called?
I know some places we can go.
There's a couple of,
That album is mad.
Yeah.
A lot. You know, that's his least favourite album out of all his albums.
I don't understand why.
He done a little collective.
Well, show me what you got on that.
Show me what you got.
And that video of him driving around.
Yeah. That's when he went for the bottle of Ace.
Yeah.
He swapped the bottle of Ace for the Cristal. He dashed Cristal and went to the Ace.
Yeah, that was the era. Yeah, when he said Cristal was racist.
Yeah, it was amazing. Wasted on that song.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Man, that was a good Jay.
Yeah. So back to the Beyonce thing. Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not, but like Jay's spoken about whether it's him just doing Jay and like third person speaking, but. He talks a lot of deep shit on that song, and I think it is about her because he talks about his nephew that he's bought the car for and dies, and talks about Dame and all of that. Yeah. So I think it is.
Yeah, you wouldn't rap a partly truthful song.
I just remembered your question. Who's the favourite person I interviewed? Yeah. There's two, right?
All right.
One, it will surprise you, Wyclef.
Okay. That's not really a surprise.
Blatantly the most honest guy. Just honest. Everyone was shirking about Fuji's getting back together, blah, 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 blah. Wyclef, I remember he came to the Lick, and without her, obviously, because I'd never done them as a group.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to meet them on radio as a group but never on telly because I hadn't been on MTV yet. But then they split up. So I said, "Sir Clef, what's going on?" And he looked in the camera and said, Lauren,
I remember this.
if you're out there, Lauren, call me. And I was like, damn. You know, because everyone was writing stuff everyone was writing about it.
Yeah, speculation.
And he just went straight there, and he's just basically saying, I want this shit to happen. It's Lauren. Lauren don't want it to happen. Of course Pras wants it to happen, because Pras ain't doing nothing.
Yeah.
But I want it to happen, you know, and he's very, very honest, and I really love the guy, you know, because of his brutal honesty, and he's a real proper. I think he's one of them guys who looks at him and goes, I'm really talented. I probably wouldn't have amounted to nothing unless I was part of the Fugees. And I had this woman, Lauren, as well, you know.
Yeah, it was very symbiotic, I think, the Fugees.
Exactly,
all of their,
exactly.
The genius being Paul, they all kind of helped each other. Because didn't he produce most of the score?
Yes, he
So
was.
he
He was the guy. He was the.
Him and Jerry Wonder,
Yeah,
right?
he
didn't need technically to. He didn't need to do anything else.
And he bust
probably.
Destiny's Child with that
Yeah,
guitar
yeah. He
as well.
saved.
Right.
He
Yeah,
actually.
don't ever forget
the
that.
remix was bigger than.
I would say.
No,
I would say he helped make sure they stayed on Sony Records, because that album didn't do much, and until he remixed No No No,
Yeah, the original
they
was-
hadn't really had a hit.
was
And
good.
The original was alright.
It was, the video was whack. It was
Yeah.
It was a bit.
You pretend as if
My
you
favourite.
don't
I would say this to you, not my favourite. My favourite interview ever. Mary J Blige. There's a documentary I did with her.
How did she walk in though? Like, dun,
No.
dun, dun.
Mary, do you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna bring some homework in for you lot, right? Because I'm gonna give you. It's on VHS. It was
got
an
a VHS
hour.
player.
It was an hour long, right? And it was on. It was called the Players Club, and this is when. This is going to be a 3-hour epic tonight, you know.
I'm cool, man.
This is when.
We might have to split this into
This is when,
episodes.
yeah. No, but this is when television changed,
Yeah.
and changed. YouTube changed the whole world of music, and it did. YouTube changed everything, and I'll tell you why. I started a production company to make. I wanted to make music documentaries.
Of course.
Because I looked on telly, I was like, I don't see much. So we came up with an idea called the Players Club. 6 one-hour documentaries on people that are influential or relevant to me in the music industry. They wanted me to do all the legends. I said, no, it's not about that. I'll tell you who I want to do. I've got some people in mind, and trust me, I've got a good hunch, and I think it'll make good filming. So I said, but there's a group called Destiny's Child, and there's this lead singer. She's amazing. I think we should follow them do an hour on them. Nah, they went, nah. They would have had footage of her at 17, right? Eating that KFC bucket, right? But they said no, and I understood, and I said, this kid, right? I think he could break America, but he's certainly going to be going over there to try, and we could follow how hard it is to see a British, and that was Craig David. I said, no, they didn't see that.
Bloody hell.
They didn't see that, right?
What does it take?
You done it.
This is the frustrations people don't see. They only see you on telly. They don't know what you're trying to do, right? I said, okay, there's this guy. He's running a label. No, this is how you
I've got another one.
You have to listen to me, like.
but this is how it is.
Thing, I'll let that one slide. Okay, cool.
No, but this is exactly how it was. Literally, there's a guy. You might have heard of him, Puff Daddy.
I bet you was like,
But
at
at the time, we're talking 2000. If you're an exec at the BBC and TV high up, running what was effectively BBC 3 at the time, you know, you might, yeah, but you don't know his relevance. I said he's launching a clothing range, like right now, well, soon, and it'll be interesting. They got that one, so we did Puffy, and then I said, okay, Mary J Blige, thinking they're gonna say, and they went, they knew, yeah, Mary J Blige. So I did Mary J Blige, and Mary, I spent 4 days following her on tour in America. And no, up to that point, my relationship with Mary J Blige was up and down, because early part of her career, she was on her drugs. You didn't know what you were going to get. She just didn't like she wanted to be there half the time. It was really terrible. But she had changed. And I thought I wanted to see the new Mary, and I went around with her and her sister and a band and her entourage and everything. And she stayed in quite a humble hotel so that everyone could stay. She didn't stay in the,
Of course, yeah,
she was
more
right.
cost effective.
She came out and she trained on the lawn. She was training. We got her filming her training with this guy Mark, who made D'Angelo's body like he made him.
For the video.
Yeah, so we laid on a bed and we were just talking, and she openly admitted that Casey used to beat her on camera. Can you remember that? On camera. It's the first time she'd ever said that. I didn't know. She was just talking and went around her mum's house. We had dinner with all her family. And I sat down, right, with her on a lawn in New Jersey. She bought them at my house. I sat down with Mary. I'm sitting with Mary and I'm like, back to this interview. And every time a car pulled up, she goes, sorry. She'd get up, take her handbag, go over and give a relative a load of money, right? And come back and continue the thing. And then we all sat down and ate. And I was part of the family, sitting there eating. I was like amazed.
Pass me the gravy.
No, but it was amazing. It was amazing to see someone who came, and then we went to the projects and everything. We did the doc. So without her, we researched her. We went and did interviews with our old friends at the projects and everything. That's where Mary's got a scar from fighting and all this, And it's amazing. It was emotionally moving to me to see somebody truly come from nothing and still part of her is still there, just because of her extended family and the people she has to look after. Now, the woman is now divorcing and he's after a lot of money from her. And I tell you, Mary ain't got that much money. Mary's got money, but Mary hasn't got money just lying around, money lying around. For all the albums that woman's made, she'll always get royalties.
Yeah.
Of course she will. But I genuinely love the woman for her. She's so honest. It's quite awkward to be in it because I revere her. And then she says things like, Trevor, it's hard. And when she met that guy, her husband, I remember it was at the MTV Awards, some country, because we went every year. We had such a good time, right? And she was there. And she literally ran down the escalator and said, Trevor, come and meet my boyfriend. Like, as if I've got a man, I got a boyfriend. She was like a little girl. And I met him. Mr. Green Eyes, and everything, and Ken Do, and he's a nice guy. I mean, they stayed together a long time. But all I took from it was, there's Mary just trying to be happy. You know what I mean? It's it's not a fake with her. It's not a fake with her.
Her career's been up and down, man.
It's not a fake with that woman. That woman is like, I see her like I would, if I don't stay in touch with nobody, no artist, but she's the one person that I would check on if I was to do with anybody and just phone and say, you're right.
Yeah.
Because it's just weird when I meet her. It's really weird. It's really, really close. You know what I mean? And it's real massive respect for her. You know what I mean? That she, I just love her. You know what I mean? I love her. I hate hearing when she's failed or anything. I just think she epitomizes. She's been through this scene from start, from the very start,
earlies, man.
From the start, from the 91 or 2. To the present day, she's still got a tune. I respect her massively.
Is there anyone that you've interviewed and thought, you're a dick?
Lots of people.
No names to drop or?
Kanye West.
Swear down.
I love him musically. Absolutely love him musically. Absolutely think he is a genius of his time. But he's so rude.
Was he rude to you when you met him?
No. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't call him a dick. You did.
Yeah,
no, but no. Let me rephrase it. And I'm gonna be careful about how I say this because I know these things get clipped and put everywhere. No, what I mean by this is I've had as many good, brilliant actually times with Kanye West. I've never really had a bad time with him. I just had I'll give you an example, and we should spend a bit of time on Kanye. The first time he took an award off someone.
Yeah, Taylor Swift, was it?
Nope.
No, it was
before that.
Oh, it was a band, wasn't it?
MTV Awards.
Fuck, who was it?
I can't remember the name of the band, but they were quite a band you wouldn't remember. It was just the band who made the best video.
Yeah.
They got the best video award. He went up. He was a bit drunk, and he took the award off and said, nah, man, nah.
It wasn't Nickelback, was it?
No, it wasn't Nickelback, not as big as that. It was a band that you wouldn't really know.
Busted or some shit.
They just had an interesting video. I think they had a video, it might have been a video where they're on treadmills. I can't remember. But
sounds like OK Go.
I can't.
OK Go? Yeah,
I'm not sure. It might be. I don't know. But he was Hell no, hell no, hell no. My video had Pamela Anderson in it. My video, I went over a canyon and all this stuff. He went mad. So we had this guy called Tim Cash used to do a show on MTV. You remember Tim? So,
say word.
Tim Cash was up Kanye's rectum, right? To the point that when Kanye won a Brit, he name-checked Tim Cash. Because I remember being at Brit Awards, and we all laughed at MTV Base because we thought, he hasn't even got a hip hop show, but he was taking Kanye round London and getting him into nightclubs or whatever, that kind of thing. So at that award show when he did that, Tim was doing the official after show. So he was doing the official MTV show. So everyone who came off stage would go straight to him. Kanye had done this dramatic thing. I didn't quite know what he'd done fully. But he came off the stage. Tim said, yo, Kanye, this way. And he said, nah, Tim, you my man, but he black. Whoa. Pointing at me. And he came and did an interview with me. Whoa. And to this day, I stood there going, whoa, this guy is rock and fucking roll. Right? This guy is rock and roll. Right? I've got incidences with Kanye that's funny. So another time, I think this might be the same award. I was doing a red.
Come with me every day, man.
No, I was doing a red carpet. I was doing a red carpet, right, for the MTV Awards. This is Kanye's first MTV European Award show, and I did a red carpet. I remember, I think it might be Norway or somewhere, and Snoop was there anyway, because I remember I tied his shoelaces up, the most embarrassing thing I ever done in my life. Snoop is so tall.
I'll put that in my bio.
He walked down the red carpet towards me, right? And his laces were undone. Like properly undone. He didn't want them. It wasn't a style thing. He had them undone. He's so tall. He had a fur on down to the ground. It was freezing. And I went down and said, hey, Snoop, man, what you doing? I realised that I look like a gopher or something. But it don't matter. But Kanye comes up with Nelly. They come to do a link with me. So Nelly's with some St. Lunatics, and there's Kanye. And Kanye's face. Because he'd been, I think, at the Billboard Awards or American Awards, and he didn't win one, and he was vexed. And it was his first album, I think it's Through the Wire. And we were about to go to a break. I said, all right, Kanye, so I'm going to be saying something to you, then I'll say something to Nelly, and then we'll go back to camera, And he's just going to Nelly, yeah, but man, and Nelly's going, cool it, man, cool it. I've sold 50 million albums, ain't it, before I won an award. Just cool it, just be happy you're selling records, man, and this sort of stuff.
What conversations are over here?
Mate, I'm overhearing this conversation. And Kanye's going, no, man, they got me all the way here, I better win something. And he's really, and by the time and I'm looking at him going, cool, man, good. By the time we get back, he's still like distracted. And I think this guy is definitely different. He's definitely different. Another time, now, if you watch The Lick a lot, I think his second album, I think I gave it 5 out of 5 when I did my Lick album review. I said, I've never done this before. Boom! I can't fault this out. I love every bit of this album. It may not be all your taste, because I'm a bit of an R&B head, and there's a few tracks on there that are very R&B-ish, but I love this album. This guy's a genius. Why didn't someone give him a deal before? Blah, all that stuff. Then I met Kanye again. So I said, so, your next album, I'm thinking your next album's going to be... He's got a magazine open while I'm talking to him. He's reading the magazine while I'm on radio, right? So you can't tell because I'm on radio. He went, yep. Exactly what you just said. I reckon your next album could be more... da-da-da-da-da. Just like that. And I'm just like, oh. Another time I interviewed him, he had a plate of food in front of him. Put the sauce on, started talking to him, he starts eating. So, but the best occasion was, which was the album with Barry Bonds on it?
Not Graduation.
Yeah.
No, was it?
College Dropout. Graduation.
No, definitely
Well,
not. It's Graduation.
well, that album anyway. He
definitely
came over and we had the BBC Theatre and we had a lot of our staff and some people in there. And it's the first we heard of the album, and it was me and him sitting there, and he played each tune of the album to the audience and got real feedback. And before he did it, he was walking around really nervously, and I saw a really nervous Kanye. And we had a great day. So what I'm saying is, it was easy for me to say I don't want to interview Kanye again because I don't really care if I don't. I don't really care if I don't interview anyone again. It doesn't bother me. I've done my stuff that but he's a complex guy. At least I preferred my encounters with him than all the guys sugarcoating everything, just trying to be pop stars, It's boring. A lot of R&B guys, singers used to come in and there's a joke, like there's that duo that do those skits. Why did everyone laugh in the 90s all the time? That uncomfortable, yeah, it was all that, you know what I mean? Yeah, man. We should go out tonight, man. We should go out. Let's hang, man. Me and my boy Trev, yeah. I just met you, geezer. What are you talking about? But do you know what I mean? Me and my boy. So Kanye, at least he was... At least everything that's transpired with him is consistent. Yeah. I don't think it's personal half the time. I think something just goes on in his brain.
Yeah, I think it's snowballed. I think if you go back to College Dropout, the very last song, he goes on like a 3-minute monologue about how this is someone who's releasing an album that's going to go on to be, I think, his most successful album out of all. I'm pretty sure College Dropout is Kanye's most successful album to date.
It's possible.
At the end of that album, he is. You can hear him talking about how he feels so hard done by and stuff. So I think from then Kanye always...
He had a chip on his shoulder.
He had a chip and he saw himself as a bit of a victim.
He had the chip,
I think the more successful he got, the more angry he got that he wasn't successful earlier.
But I'll tell you why.
Do you know what I mean?
Them not rejected him, innit?
Yeah,
Dame didn't want to give him a
Jay-Z
label, didn't want to put him on the thing, nothing. Like, even when on one album he talks about how he went to watch Jay at the Blueprint for beats he produced and he still had to pay to get in.
Yeah,
So like...
On the big...
But this is the thing. And what people don't understand... Back in those days, in New York particularly, and probably in LA, you got the man, and I went to Bad Boy in its heyday, when it's Paranoid, when Biggie just passed away. I remember going up there trying to get Puffy to produce a remix. That's the good thing about working for a major label like EMI. You can actually go and do things like that. Yeah, and sit down and have a meeting with somebody, And Puffy had loads and loads of producers up there.
Tons. Hit Stevie J and all that.
And they all do. And they're the brand. They're the name.
Yeah.
And these they get paid. You want a deal? This is the deal, all right? You want to do it? You want to do it? You want to get heard? You want to get heard? Give me that beat. Give me that beat. You want to get heard? Give me that beat.
Could I see, imagine man talking to you?
Give me that beat. Give me that beat. Here's some change. I'll give you half the royalty. I'm just imagining, right? I'll give you half the royalty. I'd give a well-known producer, but your name, I'm gonna put your name's actually gonna be credited next to my name, underneath or something like that. Yeah. You're on the road, bro. Yeah. That kind of thing. You're on the road, and they did treat producers, and then producers who were successful, because you go there, and I remember having a conversation with Puffy. This is the only time we've ever had a business, like record label, Bad Boy EMI conversation, not me interviewing. In fact, when I met him, I had never interviewed him yet.
Okay.
So I went there and I was talking to his manager, label manager. He was in and out of a studio, running in every 2 minutes. He sent an email. So he said, meet Trevor, he's from EMI, and he wants you to... I wanted them to actually remix the Misha Parish tune, right? Should have known.
Because you ain't on her as well.
Yeah, should have known better. I wanted them to try and do something with it. So he said, Puff will cost you like 50 grand. I said, no, allow that. And someone else will cost you this, but we got a new guy. He'll probably get you for 25 or 20. You know what I mean? And there's always a new guy. Yeah. There's always a new guy. And you see what the way. And I went up. I did something on Dame Dash as well. A few days with him. I filmed something with him, and I saw his operation. And to be honest, it's not much difference. They got producers. You're a producer. You're a producer. Kanye wanted to rap, and he didn't appear on any of the. I don't think did he appear on any of the tunes he produced, rapping, even ad-libbing.
Hell no.
Right. Only producers with weight and clout.
Actually, did one. Never Change.
Never Changed. Yeah, Never Changed was. It might have been on that.
He's not on that. He's done a chorus on the Blueprint.
But either way, the power that producers had in them days. Yeah. They were names themselves. You look at Swiss Beats a little later. There were all of these guys were big names.
Salah,
he wasn't mentioned, even though Kanye produced stuff, his name wasn't really mentioned. You heard the Neptunes. You knew the Neptunes were. Everybody knew the Neptunes were. Everyone knew. But he was bitter, I think, from that experience.
Because by the time I first read about Kanye, I used to read like Vibe quite religiously. And by the time I first read about Kanye in like an introductory capacity, he'd already produced cuts off like off like even like as far back as the Dynasty.
Enough tunes.
Shit like that.
That's what I'm saying.
Before I even heard of this guy, and people were still accidentally calling him Kane at the time. It's that, that deep.
Yeah, but I think
you hear his frustration though in his lyrics, like about him being. Imagine locking yourself in a room for 3 summers and like before anybody wanted K West beats, me and my girl split the bucket at KFC.
Like, wait, he went out with Beyonce?
No, but nah, obviously, like I could just tell he's just obviously got a lot of. He's holding a lot of grudges, and now he's in a position he could just do what he wants.
I think now that he's married the biggest reality TV star on the planet, that doesn't help.
Yeah,
you know, like that. You know, in my eyes, Kanye could be making music and spending the rest of his time meditating. You know, rather than being, you know, in the situation he's in. But you know, that's his business. We could, you know, because he's with Kim Kardashian, it becomes everybody's business. Anyone can talk about a reality star because that's what they're there to be spoken about. So it's not for me to talk about another person's relationship, but he's married a reality star, the biggest reality star. It means that anybody feels legit about talking about Kanye West. It's fair game.
Open season, isn't it?
And that is the problem, and I don't think that helps his state of mind sometimes.
Yeah, talking about the Kardashians. Sorry, talking about the Kardashians is genuinely like talking about the weather. It can easily just slip into any
conversation about anything, at any time.
So public are there, is their image. Damn.
This is like one of the best episodes.
For real, I don't even want it to end.
I genuinely...
I will miss my last train.
There's loads more, you know. There's loads more. You know what? I really enjoyed it. It's late. I missed the Brits.
You're locked out your house.
But I've enjoyed it because you know what it is for me? It's what's the word? Your wordsmith. Cathartic.
Cathartic, yeah.
Jeez.
It's cathartic. That's why I went straight to Michael. Right? It's cathartic because I've experienced quite a lot of things and I've seen a lot of things, you know, just because I've been around for so long, 30 years, you know, and you can't cram that into a little, and I've got loads of things to say about everything. You know, I've got an opinion on everything. Some things I thought we could change. We haven't changed in the course of all this time. It's still the same. And you could say to me one day, what are those things? And that'd be another show probably. Some things have jumped massively, quantumly.
Do you think there's a lot of relapse and regression at the same time? Do you think sometimes, oh yeah, wicked, we've achieved a milestone, and then the case in point, remember that Music Week issue?
Which one? The one that was all
just completely Magnolia.
Yeah. I think we've made strides. And I say we, what does we mean? You see, I love when you say we. I love when you say we, Mumsy. See, but the scene...
I don't like using culture, but...
Look, I don't know. I don't know how to put this. I think there's... If you break it down very, 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 very broadly, because I know people listening are up on their scene and they're up on it. But if we were talking to Britain at large and we just split into two, we'd say, right, here's a line. This side is the underground. You don't know about this side. This side is what you hear on radio and what you see on telly and what you see everywhere. That's the overground. That's the mainstream. It
was designed for you to know.
Where do you want to be? Right? Where do you lie? First of all, I'm not talking to musicians, I'm talking to the public. 90% of them are happy in the mainstream. 90. Don't fool yourself.
It's true.
Don't fool yourself because everybody you know, all your mates are into the underground, because we've all been in that place. Absolutely. All of us, right? What I like is things to be quite black and white. If you want to be a pop star, be Tiny Temper. Be a pop star. Tiny Temper set his goal out to be a pop star.
Did. I remember
he is a pop star. We need a pop star who raps in some way, shape or form, because we never had one. Name the one before Tiny.
No. Can't.
Consistently, apart from Dizzy. But you wouldn't call Dizzy's music initially pop.
I would say Dizzy. Dizzy was cult at the time.
Dizzy, Tiny came out from the time Pass That dropped He was a pop star.
Absolutely.
Right? And to his credit, he has maintained his pop stardom.
Yeah, it's true.
Most people
hit after hit
fall off straight away when they've hit that pop star level. They can't maintain. Tiny and Dummy, give them their due.
100%.
100%. Right?
They've flown.
So that is clearly black and white. I'm a pop. You can pop at me all you like, mate. I'm drinking tea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's in an interview. They asked him, "Who do you want to be like?" He said Rihanna.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's quoted as saying, the star he wanted to be most like was Rihanna.
If you could, naked ambition is great as long as it's clear.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not clouded.
Yeah.
Too many of our artists are clouding. Too many of our artists are clouding their real objectives.
It's true.
And it's getting in the way, right? You know, I wanted to do what I wanted to do as a broadcaster. I wanted to convert people into our music. So that's why I did Radio 1. That's why I did MTV. You know, and if it means I have to play, I don't know, if I have to play Bobby Brown to get them to understand who Anthony Hamilton is, or play, I don't know, once in my life PM Dawn to get to play Common, I'll do it.
Yeah.
For the sake of Common, and for the sake of Music Soul Child, or the sake of Rhyme Devaughn, or any of these people, right? Or D'Angelo. People who are short-sighted and go, all they talk about is the one you played that they didn't like, are really being short-sighted.
Yes.
They don't understand what you're doing. So now I'm on Radio 2 as well. And I'm doing the whole thing again in a different way, you know.
That's
but
even more of an infiltration.
Disco, I'm going right back to my real beginnings of when I bought music. You know, I'm playing disco. I'm playing them to 50-year-olds, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're playing to Daily Mail.
Yeah, but but it's great because
you can't change from the
that's
outside.
my point. I played Young MC, right? I'll give you a joke. I played Young MC on Radio 2 on Saturday, Know How, which I used to play the instrumental of, the instrumental was just sick b-boy break. It's unbelievable. I got a tweet from one guy going, "Oh my God, so good to hear Young MC on Radio 2. I got another tweet from someone saying, "Listen to all your show. I played it 2 songs from the end. Switched off when you played that rubbish rap record from Young MC."
Wow.
But that's the journey. That's the journey.
Yeah.
So it starts all over again for me, but on Radio 2. So I feel like I'm starting all over again, like when I first joined Radio, and it's great. But I just think we mustn't get caught up in our coolness, clouding our thoughts. I see guys coming into One Extra, a lot of bands, right? Female and male, with an entourage. And I see the artist as one thing, and I see the entourage as another thing. And yes, the entourage is a comfort blanket. When you're walking into these big buildings like the BBC or something like that, I know what that entourage is for, them friends are for, but also those friends haven't got what you got that's made you the reason you're walking through that building. So when you're taking advice off them friends, it may not be the best advice because you've done something you've cut away, you've done something, you know, and sometimes it gets really lonely because you're making all the decisions yourself. Like for me, I've been in lonely places a lot of times, you know what I mean? Where I know I can't sit there with somebody else because no one would understand my thought process, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think a lot of people do get pangs of loneliness, especially if they get any level of true success, you know? Because you can't drag everyone with you because you've got to be so single-minded sometimes, you know what I mean? To get to where you want to get to. That your friends have become debris or shrapnel off you because if they're not giving you positive vibes or understanding what you're doing, it's really, really tough. So I will urge anyone to keep it black and white. You know, the grey is when you're doing it as a hobby, when it's fun. Yeah. When you're traversing. One of the only artists I know who's a big artist who does that is Wiley. I look at him as grey. He's black and white and grey. He used to toss tunes out. You just didn't know. Wiley's gone hard. Oh no, he's gone pop. He's gone hard. He's got. You know,
that's what he wants. He has a freedom. Yeah.
Because he's always been Wiley. Yeah. You know, other people couldn't get away with that.
That's true.
Other people could not get away with that.
Absolutely.
But there's something about Wiley. He can do that. Yeah. You know, and I'm not a grime head. You know, I'm just or whatever. I just observe and I see things and I think, okay. And I look at some people and I think, crew's holding you back, mate.
Very true when you think about it, man.
or just what do you want? I can't work out what you want. You know what I mean? What do you want? Because we all know what it is. We all know what it is. We can see it clearly. There's no mystery anymore. There's none of this. Tony Braxton's bankrupt because she didn't realise she was paying for the cabs and all the flowers and everything out of her. But come on, we all know what the score is. If you go major, you know what it is. If you're independent, you know every single penny that you spend. Yeah. Like when Skepta said, mate, I spent £100 on that video or something like that time.
Yeah,
that was hilarious. £80.
That's not me.
That was hilarious. And that was because he's independent.
He knows what his business is about and how he's running his shop.
I just think, sometimes you have to be the judge of you. Just don't wait for someone to judge you. Sometimes you got to look straight in the mirror and judge yourself, mate.
Or would you think that, like, you see the advice that you're talking to us now, like, it's golden, but there's not that voice in a lot of young people's ears because they're clouded, like, by social media or comments and stuff like that. Like, the tunnel vision's
I've got kids, yeah, and they're both very different. My son likes likes. He likes his phone. He likes, he's a typical son, of this generation. You can't fight social media. Social media is a beast. It's the biggest beast out there. Yeah. I know a lot of women and a lot of young girls who just don't like themselves. Because of social media. And it's worrying. It's really worrying. And I don't know if I'd be the guy I am today if I was born up in a social media. Yeah. I don't take criticism easily. Yeah. Right? I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna be one of them. I never use the term haters. You'll never hear me ever. You can look up every interview ever. I've never used the term, and you know why? Because it's a shield saying someone's a hater. It's a shield. It's protecting you. They're just haters, though. You know what I mean? They're just haters.
Quick deflection.
It's a deflection, and it's a shield, and I get it because some people clearly are. But if I had that in my career when I was coming up, it might have affected the outcome of me. You know what I mean? Who knows? I'm so thankful that we didn't have social media when I was doing the lick because everyone would have been second guessing everything I said. What do you mean? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Do you think so?
I think so.
I think they do. When they talked about you was you.
I think they would have.
I don't know because there was no social media at the time. I don't think you truly know the kind of impact that you had on us in our homes.
Yeah, no, I do. I did. I think
because you didn't seem like a guy that was just like this music's like poppy, like it was not.
No, it was deeper than that.
This kind of air of it was a sage air. It was wisdom. It was like, fuck, man, if he says this tune's good, this is good because he's talking about it from a musician's point of view.
No, I know.
There was a stark difference, and no offense to him, there was a stark difference between you and Blackwood. And then Cat. Cat.
Yeah.
That you were the...
I get you, but...
You were the straight brandy on the... You know the ones, it was...
Okay, watch this. Yeah. I'm going to bring Bex, right? Yeah. You're going to tell me...
No cold blood!
No, but wait, Mike. Bex, you weren't around at the time, right?
I wasn't even thought about, boy.
Right, okay. So you weren't around at the time.
That's boring.
But you're born in the social media era. Yeah. People will say shit because they want to say something.
Yeah, that's true.
And how you interpret it, you don't know if someone's going, let's wind up Trevor. Let's just say what you just said about Teddy Riley is so wrong, bruv. I'm telling you, I know his cousin. That's bullshit. Your show's bullshit. Yeah. What you wear's bullshit. You're gay. Right? All right? Okay? Now...
That sounds so typical.
Now, let me just say.
A little one in there that's not related to anything.
Let me just say, I'm not homophobic. I'm just saying this is a sort of crap
that will come
right. Now, I would say I read that, and I just come off air. The transmission just happened. It went out in everyone's home, and I got 150 people going, show was wicked, great show. And the two... that were like that, and he's just winding me up. He's just there to wind me up, and he's waiting for a response because I bet he hits you back.
So true.
Because I've had this once, and I don't really get it because I don't look for it, to be fair. And I did it, and immediately they said, "Mate, we got a biter," and you feel like an idiot, right? Yeah. So I think people would. Just because they do. And people just do.
It's
people
true,
will thumbs down a video on YouTube because they ain't got one yet. Nah, I'm doing the first.
Let me just be difficult.
So I'm going to be difficult. So I'm glad it wasn't around, and I'm glad. But Michael, I did know because I would bump into some. I remember the joy of doing MTV and that you'd get invited to things. I remember me and Nigel Benn playing a boxing game at a launch where we met Muhammad Ali. It was amazing. Muhammad, he's my hero. And I'm standing there with Nigel still trying to beat me up, even playing. Them guys are ferocious. He's like, right, and he goes to me after, he goes, mate, love your show on MTV. He goes, me, my son, my wife were tucked up in bed every time you're on. We know when you're on.
Me.
And, and it's a generation, and it's cool, man. It's just cool. I love it. And so I did know. I did know. It wasn't national telly. It wasn't like terrestrial. It was only for a small amount of people.
Those the new.
But I do know because I used to watch every show back.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't watch it like, look at me. No. I watched it because I wanted to watch a show on R&B on telly.
Exactly.
Because where was it? So I'd watch it, raise myself out wherever I could in my head, but, and just try and make it better or, and it was...
You used to do that with your radio shows.
Yeah,
as well,
always.
right?
I would advise anyone who does radio, and I did this for like 10 years, 20 years. Every single radio show I did, because remember, I didn't do daytime playlisted shows initially. I did pure specialist. So every show I did, I recorded, I put it in my car, and I listened to it at least once. And I wouldn't wait for producers to say, you did that wrong, you did this wrong. I would just listen to it, and I'd be doing other stuff. That's how most people listen to radio. They don't listen like this.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we all
it's true.
think. They don't listen with their ear up to the radio, every single word they say. If you fuck up, they'll hear it.
Yeah.
If you get dead air, they'll hear it. If you go, thick, they'll hear that. But they're not listening to you, but they'll hear that. They always do. Yeah, so I listen and I just self-regulated, and that's how I tried to get better. I used to laugh too much at my own jokes. I still repeat what I say too much. But I don't listen anymore. I haven't listened for 10 years, but I don't listen no more. But I used to. And then I got to the point of saying, right, I'm a broadcaster now. It's not about me being a specialist DJ. I want to have fun. I want to broadcast. I like broadcasting. I can't listen to music radio. I don't listen to any music radio. When I get in my car, I listen to talk radio, any form of talk, sports, news, anything. I don't play music at home unless it's... I have loads of music at home. I only play music at home when I'm getting ready for a gig because I have to ration it. I've had so much music.
Intake in your last
right?
time, yeah.
So much music in my head that I've had to ration it to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Or else you stop enjoying it. If it's constant. Like New Music Friday now, coming, 4 albums released. And there ain't a classic in none of them 4. There ain't a classic. Them days are over.
Yeah, for real.
All right? So you work out 4 times 60 minutes.
Fuck out of here.
That's 4 hours, bro. That's like 4 hours. I could be feeding my fish or something. No, but you get what I mean? Yeah. So I would rather just get the feedback. Listen to if there's an album an artist I'll go for it. I'll listen, and if they're but I'm being honest. I like broadcasting now. I think that the fun of being a specialist DJ has been taken away a little bit for me because I was used to dying for the art. Like having to go miles to get music, spend all my money. Now it's just lift that laptop up. Yeah. Everyone, it's equal.
The trip to the record store's no longer.
Yeah, it doesn't make you special. It doesn't. So all you've got above everybody else maybe are your broadcasting skills or the fun you can have on radio I know what I am. They call me uncle now. I've had to take that one. And I now enjoy it because I think you don't call someone an uncle if you don't like them, right?
Respect. That's
respect them. Yeah, if there's someone who's not your relative, but they've come round, they're old enough to be your parent, but... You know what? I wouldn't mind if he was my uncle. I'd take that. Yeah.
You are looked up to by a brace of like burgeoning presenters. I see how much Clara Amfo, Yasmin Evans.
Yeah, no, I would be honest with you. I talk to all of them.
Yeah,
I talk to every single DJ that joins One Extra. Well, and to a degree Radio 1, but not so much Radio 1. But I talk to all of them because I can see that they've come into it at a completely different time to me. I was like the only one on Radio 1, right? At first, I was the only one on Radio 1. But I was prepared for it because I went to a school like that, a secondary school like that. Yeah. I had a job at EMI like that. Yeah. I was prepared when I went to MTV, it was similar, so I was built for that. But they come into a place where everyone's competitive and everyone sees the prize now. So everyone wants to do and they've got ideas what they want to do with their brand, and everyone's got and we didn't know about that. We just had to become a brand to make a living.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's just sometimes keeping them going, sometimes just telling them, you know, you don't need to do a million links. You don't need to be. You are a personality by just being you. You know, you don't have to force it. Sometimes it's hard to convince people, you know, that you just be you and don't try hard.
Yeah.
Public ain't stupid. You know, sometimes we over try. Public can tell. They can tell someone who's sincere, who's insincere. You can just tell, you know. And the sort of people you want liking you are those sort of people. So just do you. And if they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. You're in the wrong job.
Do you think that's part of the reason why you've managed to like have such a long-lasting career? Because if you look at it, there's DJs that I was growing up listening to that had big shows, daytime, and they're non-existent now. Like they're struggling. And like,
well, that's a book, innit? I mean, I know most of the DJs that came up on a certain level. I've encountered most of them. Some of them, I think, ridiculously talented in a club, more so than on air. So that doesn't get you listeners. I think it is a bit of a. I think you have to have a natural talent. You do. You can't. Not everyone can do radio. You know. I'm aware that my voice. I go in somewhere and I'm talking in a bank or somewhere like that, and as soon as I start talking, people turn around, and they immediately, you know, white, black, all ages.
is that you, Trev?
No, honestly, I get it at football. I go Chelsea, man. I try to keep my mouth shut. You know, when I'm queuing up to get in the turnstiles, but the moment my mate's always talking loud at me, and the moment you start talking, someone turns around. So.
Oh Jesus! I remember seeing your fan special match of the day about Chelsea.
Oh yeah.
That was the only time I reckon in my whole life that I've ever lost an ounce of respect for.
Yeah, no, I get it all the time. It's all right, mate. But again, you know what it is, Michael? A lot of people. I supported Chelsea when I was 7.
Yeah, no,
and
I rate that.
I grew up in Hackney. And Chelsea had a very bad reputation at some point. They used to recruit, National Front used to recruit at the gates.
Yeah.
Probably second only to Millwall or West Ham or something like that. Those 3 clubs were always in a bit of... And you know what? Can you imagine? Everyone in my house is Arsenal.
Are you serious?
And Arsenal is the one club, I have to tell you, I'm supposed to support.
Yeah.
Whenever I go Arsenal, all I see is people I know.
You seem like a gooner, Trev.
I know, right? Jazzy's a gooner. You know, my son's a gooner. My son, let me give you the joke. I bought him a Zola shirt, took him to Chelsea. He was about 6. Yeah, Dad. Yeah, he grew up in Muswell Hill, North London, right? So I said, they said, Dad, my shirt's getting a bit too small for me, you know? So I said, here's some money, go with your mum, go get yourself a new shirt. I'm so big, I've got to go and film or something like that, yeah? Come home, Thierry Henry, Arsenal shirt.
Must have been like, what's going on here?
That was when I knew we're going to have some trouble here, son. Like, we're never going to bond properly, right? But you know what? I respected him because I said, you know what? You could have just stayed Chelsea to please me, but I respect that you're an individual. And that's what I was. And it's part of what defined me.
Yeah.
You know, I stayed a Chelsea fan. I saw, my first game was Tottenham, didn't support them. Then Arsenal, didn't support them. Then Leyton Orient, didn't support them. Then my dad took me Wembley, didn't support Southampton or Man United. I went to Chelsea after all that, but I would already supported them. And I've always supported. I'm a season ticket holder, 20 years. Can't even go on a Saturday now. Still got my season ticket.
Yeah.
But I think people will respect you if you're honest.
Yeah, no,
and I'm honest, and it wasn't the dumb thing at one point, especially in the 80s.
And stubborn as
to be a black Chelsea supporter at one point. You know what I mean?
Mad thing.
But when I went to that ground, they just kind of respected you because you're just like, ooh, all right, son.
That's the thing about a lot of racists. They're not even really racist.
No, they're not.
They're racist against this stereotype.
They're ignorant. They're ignorant.
Yeah, that's what it is.
They're ignorant.
They think that black people are either their one black friend or like just all roadmen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, but you know what? That's when you tap into your roadmanism because they all thought he's a little nutter. He's got to be a nutter. Yeah. He's got to be. Oh, mess with him. He's got to be mad.
You can't just come in here one up like that.
Nah, listen. I'm not knocking.
Every single time I hear Chelsea, like the games on Manchester, all I hear is, what's that song? What's this? Do-do-do.
The Chelsea start.
Yeah.
Chelsea. There's actually
Liquidator. What a tune. That's our tune.
What's the
Chelsea, Liquidator.
Yeah.
It's Liquidator.
Yeah.
Bad tune.
Proper black man tune?
Yeah, proper.
But congrats on the league anyway, man. You've got that.
We ain't got nothing yet. You don't make out you're a novice. I've seen bigger leads go than that. 8 points is not. 8 points. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That is nothing. You lose your next game. That's 5 points.
I hear you.
And then someone says you still got Man City to play and Man U.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Be honest, I'm a Man United fan, so I don't really see like you wash us like.
Man U, right? Mourinho's on a mission.
He is.
When I tell you that man is on a mission right now, you got us in the FA Cup. He does not want that game.
I know, I don't want it. When I saw it, I thought, fuck,
He
it's
does
over now.
not want that game. 4-0 he lost last time. He ain't gonna lose 4-0.
You lot come and blitz the goal in the first minute, bruv. I turned it out, I said, yo, this is
That was
piss.
my best game for
was you
years.
there?
That was, what do you mean was I there? Listen, that game was my favourite game since we drew with Spurs and stopped Spurs winning the league last year.
Serious.
Yeah, I did a thing on Match of the Day again, similar to that one, but this was just we played West Ham and they interview you before, in the middle, and after the game.
Yeah.
So after the game, they interviewed me. I said, "Well, it's a tough season, isn't it, man? You know, I can't remember. I think we drew against West Ham or something." He goes, "So what's left for the season?" And I just looked straight down the camera and I went, "Stop Spurs." And I went straight back to the studio and Ali Shearer was cracking up. I put my Twitter on.
Man. Bare abuse.
All the Tottenham fans on my case. We're coming for you. We're coming for you. Chelsea rent boys. We're coming for you. I said, come now.
Come now.
We were there. It was great. I love football banter. I think it, and you know something, I think it's something, and I will say a black and white issue here. I think it's something that so many black people absolutely love. And in my time growing up, so few black guys went to games because of the 70s and the way it was in the 80s. And now I think it is it's so much better. It's brilliant. It's brilliant now. No lie. Whatever ground you go to, there might be one in London I will still be a bit nervous about, but wherever you go to, it's fantastic. Families, global, tourists, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't subscribe to the fact that it's a working class game. It should stay working class. We should Nah, it's an everybody's game.
It's an enjoyment for
you know what I mean? It's an everybody's game,
inclusive.
and it's a global game. And football banter's brilliant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's brilliant. Without football banter, men would never talk to each other.
True. Do you watch boxing or UFC?
I watch boxing. I don't do UFC. UFC's mad.
It scares
I don't do
me,
all that
man.
scary.
Love that shit.
You know what UFC?
Love that shit.
UFC is like you see
Professional scuff.
outside of a club at 4 a.m, you know, when a man's been chirping another man's woman or something. It's all elbow down and all this nonsense. It's crazy. I like boxing.
When you really think about it.
Yeah, the UFC is the shit though,
It's
man.
savage,
Who do you think's gonna win between Hay and Bellew?
Oh, okay. All I know is I ain't paying for that.
Who's paying for what?
But just remember, I'm BBC and legit, and I've got letters after my name. I have to pay.
I thought he was gonna be there live.
If anything, good comeback, Ray. If
like that, yeah.
If I don't pay, I'm in the papers. Remember that, yeah? No, I think I like Bellows. I like his oomph.
Yeah.
He's got some chirping chat, innit? I'm not being funny. Since I've seen that guy in the boxing ring, I've always thought, is he taking his sport really seriously? Because he looks like me with his top off.
Yeah, he doesn't do cardio, innit? He says he doesn't do cardio.
Well, you know, look, I don't think it matters massively when you're fighting someone and you've got superior skills. But when you're fighting someone, a former world champion who is built like Hay,
tank, yeah,
and is a knockout specialist, it's dangerous. So.
First round, second round.
Mate, I think Hay. I know David Hay, and he's what he is, right? He is what he is. You know, he's been called out a bit,
yeah,
and he does like the high life a bit and all that. But like he said, I don't think Belly's got anything to hurt him unless Hay's shot, and Hay ain't shot. I don't think Hay's shot. He hasn't fought enough to be shot,
no,
and he hasn't taken enough licks to be shot. So, I think it could be a better scrap than people think.
What do you reckon? 4 rounds, 5 rounds?
What are you doing to me, man?
Brits gonna go to Paddy
before I go
Power.
there, you're a boxing fan.
Yeah.
What's Bellows' jab like again? How far is it? Because they're about the same height, aren't they?
I think
If he's got
longer arms.
Yeah, but if he's got a good jab.
But then he goes underneath the jab.
Yeah,
He does
but-
that movement
yeah,
thing where
I know, but-
he goes underneath and he moves a lot. It's a problem.
He used to.
Yeah, true. He's getting older now.
Let's see if he does. Yeah, see, you just don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
You
His
see,
style might
you
have
see, the
changed.
guy who's not rusty, ring rusty, is Bellew. The guy, right now, that means a lot in boxing, you know. And but you only take one thump on your head
And he punches
to lose
hard,
that
bro.
jump. I can't back anyone but Hay, and I think it'll go half distance. I don't think. I'll be surprised if David Hay comes out and just tries to knock his head off. I think he's a bit smarter than that. I'll be surprised. In
I
fact,
hope. You reckon he'll outbox him smartly?
it
I
won't,
think he'll
it won't
bully
go the
him.
distance, will it? Though.
Nah, I think it will.
You really do?
Nah, no way.
With Hay's punching power.
Remember, he's a cruiserweight. Like, obviously, Hay used to be a cruiserweight, but
Yeah, but
he's going up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Michael, these lot are getting in their zone, boy.
Hay's too big. Hay's too big.
Trevor, let's bring it to your new
Yeah,
shows.
sorry.
I feel like I needed your Sunday show.
Well,
It's
oh
me.
my God! Yeah, can we talk?
Can we, please?
Please, okay. So
I go to school now
I'll
every
give you a
single
quick one
Sunday.
extra. I'll give you a quick one extraism thing, right? So one extra. Like I said to Michael, I said to you before these guys, producers, actually turned up to do the recording for the podcast. I was saying that you know, the reason I joined One Extra was because I've been on Radio 1 for quite a long time. I've been a specialist. I think you've got to know when you've hit your plateau. And for me as a specialist, I plateaued. I'd done my bit, and I just wanted to enjoy broadcasting. And so they asked me to do daytime. And I always thought, I just want, anything to bring a bit more. Because we weren't put on One Extra when they joined. I think One Extra should have put me, Westwood and Goldfinger on straight away. I know because they was room.
Jeez, Goldfinger, I ain't heard that name in a while.
Yeah, but I think they should have. I think, along with all the new talent, because we had already had an audience on Radio 1, and we would have immediately brought more audience, a lot more audience to One Extra. But it didn't matter. I was happy to join, because for the first time in years, the British scene was absolutely doing it. It was amazing. I mean, I've done the Live Lounge for years, and I'm amazed at the talent that comes through I could put on the fingers of one finger who I didn't think did a good Live Lounge, or two maybe. Everybody.
Do you have a favourite though? Like,
jeez, I don't know, man.
one that's been like, right,
Honestly,
I can't even carry
there's
on my show now.
so many. I'm always amazed. They're live. They're doing their thing live.
That early in the morning.
Yeah, that early in the morning, whether they are going to sell loads of records or not. I watch them. They're in the BBC. They're in the Live Lounge on the 8th floor where Coldplay or whoever does it, you know what I mean? And these people come and eat the thing up, man. And I love it. I love it. So I did that for 8 years, as you know. I thought I'd do 5, but they ended up keeping me for 8. I didn't want to be too old on daytime because I just felt, you know what, I don't want to be this guy just until you drag me out of kicking and screaming. I'd rather go when people still think, I kind of miss him a bit, So that was right. And then they said, I said, well, do weekends. And I said, you know what we need? We need an old school show so badly.
I'm so happy.
All these other stations are trading on old school. And you got old school brains on this station, but we're not doing no old, you know what I mean? So now I'm doing, I've really got, next week, you'd like next week's, this one coming up. I've got a bit of Common Like Water for Chocolate.
Jeez.
Some, just playing, it's not just hits back to back, it's like,
music.
I'm playing
And
some tunes
you
as well as some...
completely control it as well.
completely.
Mad.
Were you speaking of Common? Do you remember when he did that masterclass at One Extra when MCs had to ring up and spit against?
I didn't hear that,
Did you not? Come
No, I
through to
didn't
that?
hear
That
it.
was the old. That was the
Really?
Jordan
Was it good?
House and that. It was amazing.
He's a proper... that guy used to be my favourite MC.
Yeah,
He used to be my favourite MC in the world at one point. And I think everyone's got a different favourite MC. I think an MC is sometimes a reflection of you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I found Common really polite, well-mannered. He's a really nice guy.
In the masterclass, I remember when he went.
He says yes, sir. He says yes, sir. He's like got southern manners. It's like he's not from Chicago. He's like from the deep south.
It's true.
He's really got manners.
He's like a blues man.
But I love the guy. The guy's like, he's got, his voice has got timber.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, his talking voice is...
Yeah, it's deep. He
rich,
does that advert. You can hear his voice.
The Microsoft one.
Yeah, sick.
Doing a lot of films now as well.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of films.
John Wick 2. I don't know if he's in John Wick 1 because I haven't seen it. But he's definitely in John Wick 2.
I like him, and I like.
He's playing assassin, didn't he? He's in.
Have you seen him live?
Lucky Number 11, Smoking Aces.
You ever seen him live?
Once live at the Roundhouse.
Did he break dance and all that? He loves.
But he brought out. He had.
He starts breakdancing.
He loves the culture. He loves the elements.
Yeah, he loves the elements.
So he had 2 DJs, and one was specifically for scratching.
Yeah.
He. Did he? I know there was definitely some element of dancing.
Yeah, he starts popping and dancing, and he's a kid. Like when he was a kid, he has to do it.
On stage.
He just does it.
He's got the old school kind of showmanship.
It's that thing of you're on stage, entertain, do something.
Yeah.
That it's that. I like that about him.
Can I just ask? You see how you mentioned Common? Did you ever meet like Jay Dilla or any of his producers?
Do you know what? If I ever met Jay Dilla, let me tell you, if I ever met Jay Dilla, I didn't know I was meeting Jay Dilla.
Swear that.
And I think Jay Dilla was probably in the room with either Q-Tip or someone like that.
Yeah.
Because Jay Dilla became more revered after he passed away than while he was alive. You see, all I can say is everyone used to come in an entourage. You know, I think I met him just the once. I don't think I interviewed him though. Okay. I think I might have been in the same, but again, it's Jay Dilla. He's going to be around forever.
Yeah.
Producing beats. He's like, it's like meeting, them boys who did TLC stuff from Atlanta. Organised noise. Or these production teams were always, they weren't all puffies. Producers were supposed to be in the dark. You're never supposed to meet them. That's how it was back in the day. Jay Dilla was, DJ Premier only got Primo only got shouted out because it was just 2 of them, Guru and him. And Primo was on, Gangsta were on our label, so I had the chance to, obviously I was always hanging out with Guru, I could meet DJ. Yeah, he had an old studio, his studio where he done a lot of his productions. When I tell you, the faders, crackly.
In New York?
Yeah,
I've been to that studio.
Crackly.
Headquarters.
I don't know what it's called, but it's crackly as fuck, and he loves it like that. And that's how he gets all the grit in his...
Yeah.
Primo...
I visited... I remember going to New York a couple of years ago, and at the time, I'd just recently become friends with Primo through Rizzle Kicks. So going to... he invited us down to his studio in New York. And we were just sitting in there. He's got, he's got the plaques. He's got
it's proper old,
plaques.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Proper
Jay-Z's plaques, Biggie's plaques, Gangstar plaques.
Yeah.
And we're just chilling there. Ninth Wonder just rolls up like it's nothing. It was stupid. It was dumb. And we like literally, this sounds like a lie, but on my life, right? I've got one witness. His name's Tom Thornton. He's my DJ. Yeah. We were sitting in Primo's studio, smoking weed, watching Al Green on Soul Train. No one, do you know what I mean? Like,
that doesn't get any better.
That shit sounds made up.
No, but it doesn't get any better.
That's what we were fucking doing.
It doesn't get any better.
It's incredible.
I feel like I'm so dry, I got no stories.
No.
I once queued up 6 hours to meet Busted. Do you get me? That's so like...
You know what? We've names dropped a lot tonight. We could do a part 2 easily.
Hey, we're going to do a part 2, man.
Live.
Absolutely. We'd love to get you on the...
I don't mind. I don't mind if you want to do one.
Absolute gems are being dropped. Well, let's wrap it up with just one more thing, please. We usually do track of the week, but fuck it. Like, your album for life thing is a massive thing in our lives as well. So what, just now.
Oh, the album for life.
TBC
Did you like that?
Yeah.
I'm glad you did, because
and 5 seconds to
I
name.
always thought it was a good thing to do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do.
Albums are...
Don't listen to them.
People haven't said they didn't like it. I just used to wonder if people really took notice of it, because there was no form. I didn't ask for feedback, you know what I mean? It was just like...
man.
Get in touch, 88811.
Sorry to cut you, Michael. It's only because my feeling was the album is dying.
Absolutely.
The album's dying, and
do you not think good quality R&B is dying as well?
Totally.
I know that there is a resurgence.
Totally.
It's still so few artists that are producing great R&B. Yeah. And all the R&B nights are nostalgic R&B nights.
It's not modern.
There is no contemporary... I defy anyone right now to be able to name a great R&B group
dance to it.
New Jack Swing is all gone. It's all bloggers R&B now. Yeah. It's shit that you can get the feels to at like 4 in the morning.
You talk more about it than you dance to it.
That's it.
But it doesn't mean it's not being made. decade, you know, Sid and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the people making this stuff don't even want to be called R&B. You got to understand. They want to be something. So yeah, but
greatest, hands down, greatest R&B album of all time.
Which decade?
Just you think,
No, you can't do that.
90s,
Okay,
90s is the hardest.
Right, yeah, 90s. Let's go 90s.
I have to go 90s, the hardest.
Because that's my favourite R&B.
All right, can we do?
Let's go 90s all the way up to 2000s.
Wow, can we start? All right, let's get a 10 together off the top of my head.
Okay.
D'Angelo,
Right.
Yeah.
Which album?
Brown Sugar.
Okay.
Well, we could have this argument. It could be the first, second. It could be the first or the second, right? Some people like the second more, but the first have got more songs, and I think you need to go with the one with songs.
Yeah.
I've really got the answer.
Yeah.
Miseducation.
All right.
That's my favourite album.
Yeah.
Miseducation for me.
That's it. That's it.
Oh, no, it would be it. There's one song missing off the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which would make it the greatest. She takes Can't Take My Eyes Off of You off the album, and she puts The Sweetest Thing on the album.
Sweetest thing
You don't think
I've
Sweetest
ever
Thing
known.
Should have been on the album. It wasn't on the album.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
Can't
a
Take
kiss
My
on.
Eyes Off was a cover.
Yeah.
Andy Williams, I think, did the cut. Is a cover, and the only reason that she did it on telly, and the record company loved it, and the people at home loved it so much watching it that they forced her to put it on the album. The record company said, "You've got to put this on the album." I wish she put Sweetest Thing on the album, not that, because then it would be pure originals. Sick tune.
Sweetest thing I've
The
known.
All right.
video for that.
We got to have a Mary. We got to have one Mary in there.
Yeah?
I'll go for the first one.
Yeah.
I love the phones, the phone messages as well, and the fact that everybody was young, new. You had Puffy on there. Everyone was new. Biggie, everyone's on there. Yeah, loads of that. It's great. It's great. You could hear something exciting was going on.
Queen of Hip Hop.
You know what I mean? You could hear something exciting. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's legendary.
Backward, baby.
You could go Jodeci, but I wouldn't say a total album.
No.
I wouldn't. I think there's moments on some of their albums.
Oh, man, this is great. This is a good rundown.
I know, for real.
I don't think Aaliyah did the ultimate album.
No.
I don't think she did although, I loved what her and Timbaland did was ridiculous.
4-page letters for me.
Yeah, ridiculous.
man.
But when I say great album, I mean like every track.
Yeah.
I mean, I like every track.
Yeah.
Who else? Let me think. Jill Scott. I mean, we could go Maxwell, Jill Scott, all of these people, but D'Angelo covers all that to me.
Yeah, all right.
D'Angelo and Erica. Erica's first.
Which one? Baduism.
The first.
Ooh, I need a rim shot. Hey. I was
First. All right. I know I haven't got his one yet though. That's the thing. He's just like. All right,
I'm just taking this all in.
All right, let me think. Okay,
Everyone's
this is
just smiling.
controversial.
Yeah.
This is controversial.
Okay.
This is controversial. But music chooses you. You don't choose music, right? What you like, you like.
Absolutely.
Justified, JT.
Bam,
Mate,
bam,
mate,
it's
no,
what
shame
you
in that.
like.
Justified,
I'ma take it from here.
Justified,
Take it from here,
Every
baby.
tune on that album.
Yeah.
Big album.
For real.
Killer.
Yeah.
And I would say one of my most enjoyable interviews ever was with him when that album was released, because we all knew, well, a lot of people didn't know, but we knew that it was written for Michael Jackson at the time. But to tell him that, I didn't like NSYNC at all. I hated NSYNC.
One song.
Even tearing up my heart
Tune.
when
No,
I'm
bye.
with
I don't
you.
care. I didn't like boy bands.
Gone is my only song of NSYNC.
No, but the one I played, the first one I played was obviously in a club, was with
Nelly.
Girlfriend.
Yeah, that's another one. Them
That
two
was
is
the first one.
Would you be
That was
my
the first one.
Yeah.
The girls love that tune, dude. So anyway, it's a bad album. He smashed it. He
Did I
smashed
love
it.
it like I love you, believe me? Yeah.
Even the video.
You know what?
Do you know the best bit?
Can I say
Wait,
something
the best
controversial?
bit.
One minute.
Alright, cool,
Can I
cool.
say something controversial? I don't think that song needed Nelly.
It did for me, man.
Did it?
Yeah.
I don't think.
Shall I tell you the best bit? Ever since I saw your face,
In the club, man.
nothing in my life has been the same.
Go on,
That's
girl.
the best bit.
You know my tune?
Go on.
Come on and go with me. I'm eating, sorry. Let's take a ride.
I think my
Tune.
what? Oh, I'm getting emotional.
It had a
Got
real
laid up
summery
with Judd
Neptunes vibe.
today.
That's
Okay,
First
all
one.
right. How about this? 8701
I was gonna
or
say that.
Confessions?
I ain't finished.
Wait.
No, don't stop the
8701
flow,
or
man.
That was next.
Confessions?
No, that was next. You're right. That was next.
Cool.
Because you can't talk about JT without talking about Usher. Mm-hmm. Went to Atlanta. Sorry, name drop again.
Do it.
Just after JT released Justified. Went to Jermaine Dupri's studio.
So deaf, yo.
Hang out. Well, it's an Usher thing, but Usher took me to Jermaine. So I said to Usher in an interview, Jermaine sitting there said, "There's a new kid on the block." Meaning Justin. Mm-hmm. It's one time I did some windy up shit, right? Usher went, he looked at me and went, people are saying stuff. He said, "I got something to play you." So he runs in his Hummer. Them days they drove stupid Hummers, right?
Yeah.
He put this tune on. He turned it up so loud. And what is it with Americans? Turned it up so loud. I couldn't. It was distorted.
Turn my shit up.
He played Confessions to me. Just dropped it. And he looked at me throughout the whole tune.
How'd you like me now?
Catch me outside.
What'd you think of that? What'd you think of that?
Talk to me now, huh? What new kid you talking
Every
about?
time I was in LA.
I genuinely believe, in my heart and soul, the reason Confessions was the last R&B album to sell 10 million copies in America was because of Justified. Just pushed it over the edge. Just made Usher and Jermaine and them lot just make that album as big as possible. Because I think, and that's what everyone always needs. Rappers need it. R&B artists need it. You know, Justin came out. Everyone's favourite white boy. Everyone.
They weren't thinking he was going to flip the script like that.
I didn't think he was going to do that.
I didn't.
I heard Girlfriend and I liked it. I didn't think he was going to be that big, right? I thought he'd be big, but I didn't think he was going to nail it.
Yeah.
I mean, he nailed it. He nailed it. I killed that every track on that album. So I'm looking at the boy, the golden boy. Usher is the golden child. 8701, unbelievable album.
And literally unbelievable.
Unbelievable. That's my tune.
We'll arrive.
And that tune's supposed to be on
Sing with us, Trev. Come on.
From a different era, B.
Gotta be smart about it. Seller.
Trev don't sing, baby.
Celebrations.
Oh, dude.
That is my tune. And the video. But he came with it. And in fact, Confessions is just a very spit and polished. Really spit and polished. The thing about the album before, it was a bit rawer in feel, wasn't it? In production. Confessions is so polished.
It's so big. Basically, I swear down, it was. Remember, Mariah came out with the Emancipation of Mimi.
Yeah, We Belong Together.
It was as polished.
It was so polished.
That was all Jermaine Dupri as well, wasn't it?
Which
or
does,
pretty, like a lot.
It takes a little bit off that album that is so polished. The thing that takes the most off that album, that would have made that album without doubt my number one. Lovers and Friends should have been on that album.
Please tell your
Instead of on Little John and
Luda.
Lovers and Friends supposed to be on that album.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think the one before I loved more.
8701.
Organically loved it. It got leaked.
Yeah.
It got leaked, so it was a bit messed up how they did it.
It was a big for me. The PR, the chili thing. Her being involved in it was amazing. 8701 is my number one.
What about an R. Kelly album?
TP2.com, man.
See, everyone's got a different one. That's the problem. 20.
Foreplay is good, but I
like when he went Chocolate Factory as well. I like that as well.
Come on.
I like when he went Chocolate Factory.
This is
when he did
woman's
Steppers. When he went
worth.
Steppers. But no, he hasn't. He can't beat any of those albums. So there's got to be someone else.
Who?
I don't know.
Are we talking all
No, he
Where
never
I Wanna
nailed it.
Be?
He never nailed one.
he
He never nailed one. Joe never
He
nailed
didn't have
one.
2 tunes. He had
No, he had more than that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
This love,
Shorty.
it's the corner
Shorty.
free girl.
Shorty got her eyes on me.
Yeah.
Say what,
No,
say what,
just
say what.
That was his big
That's
one.
the greatest.
That was the crossover.
That is the
wasn't it?
greatest club R&B record ever made. I'm going to say that now in contemporary terms.
Me and my people be rolling.
Give me a better one than that. That tune there, honestly, I've played that tune, I think...
How about Tamir's album?
No. Tamir Braxton?
No.
No, just Tamir.
What?
No. Tamir.
I
Tamir.
think
No,
you're
no.
into
It's
you
nice.
and
It's
shit.
nice.
Life
It's nice.
Jennings.
something special.
Life Jennings had a couple of killer tunes.
268
The album can't test
Actually,
D'Angelo
no, I was
or Music Soul Child. I think his tune. I think he had a killer song on there, and the album wasn't bad. And he was in prison, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Life Jennings. That's why it's called Life. Life. Who else?
Dr. Dre, The Chronic, yo.
No, that's hip hop. That's hip hop. There is no more. There is no more. They're the ones. They're probably the ones, aren't they?
Yeah,
I think Lauren. Right, your favourite then? What's your? No, Faith never nailed it. Never nailed. I can tell you every single album, she never nailed it.
Yeah.
She never nailed it.
She's not in the same echelons as Mary J. Blige.
Ashanti never nailed it.
First album.
Never nailed it.
Monica.
Too much repetition.
Yeah.
Never nailed it.
All I think about is
Missy Elliott never nailed an album. Not nailed it from start to finish.
Right.
Not nailed it.
Yeah.
She nearly nailed it.
Missy Elliott was a singles woman.
Busta Rhymes never nailed an album. Not nailed
Genesis
it.
was cold.
Nailed it.
Extinction level event. I think that's the closest for me that he came.
And then he did too many tracks. That's the problem. So he should have done less and nailed it.
Eminem.
My first two
Marshall
albums.
Mathers for me.
Marshall Mathers and for me,
Marshall
Slim
Mathers.
Shady LP. I know every lyric start to finish on both albums. A song comes on, I can't help it.
I can imagine him in his room.
Marshall Mathers.
Think about it.
He only once. The very first album was the only time I ever met him, and then he became the possession of Zane Lowe. I interviewed him now, but I did a funny thing with him because I knew he was mad. I got a doctor's uniform on, and a periscope, and I laid him down, and I did word association with him, because I listened to his album and I said, "You're mad," and so I went like so, and I say a word and I say "mum," and he'd go dead. Wow. This is on MTV. He did this whole fucking monologue thing. It was brilliant. And that's the only time I interviewed him. I never interviewed him again, ever. Wow. I've never interviewed Dre.
I don't think many people have.
But you know what? I don't know if I want to.
Yeah.
I think, Dre's one of them guys, don't meet your heroes now.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I don't think Dre could truly live up to an interview with what his achievements are, if you get my drift. You put him on such a, you're going to...
Yeah, he seems really introverted.
He's quite laid back.
I think it would be quite a boring interview.
I also think the Sugar Knight episode and the Death Row stuff has made him more introvert. Yeah. Because there's a lot of secrets.
Yeah, definitely a lot of secrets.
The fact he's making money off beats and that, and none of it's going to Suge is an awakening. If none of it's going to Suge, I don't know. But
you ever come across Suge in your time?
No thanks.
All right. and on that note,
on that bombshell, I guess we'll see you for episode 040, the big 4-0. Yeah, the big 4-0. We're approaching the big 4-0. We're gonna have a mid-podcast crisis. Yeah.
God damn.
I might pull up on the motorbike. Yeah, if you want to give us any feedback at all, please don't hesitate to email us at
TBC Podcast.
Is it TBC Podcast or just TBC? TBC Podcast at grimedaily.com. Grime Daily. Sorry.
Grime Daily.
It is grimedaily.com. We are still, in that sense, Grime Daily, yeah?
Flies.
TBC Podcast at grimedaily.com. And any issues that you've got as well, literally anything, and anything you'd like to see us doing, any guests you might think that we could attract, let us know who you want to see.
Mate, you're going to attract a whole heap of A-listers now.
After this, we've just had an MBE on. Like, do you know what I mean? We are now kind of like, I guess we can carry the royal warrant maybe now. Yeah. And follow us as well on the socials. I am on, across the board, I am at Mikill Pane, that's MIKILLPANE.
At Rebecca_Judd.
At Ren, REN_GRM. Yeah. Thank you, Uncle Trevor.
DJ Trevor Nelson.
Well, at DJ Trevor Nelson, don't troll me.
Don't troll him. Don't
take
troll
it
him.
really. No, someone will now. You know that, right? You know that.
I heard your podcast, man.
I heard your podcast, man. Shit, you talk shit.
I do know Teddy Riley's cousin.
It's been great. By the way,
love you, Trevor.
Yeah, I bet you do. I ain't got no home to go to now.
He's locked out.
I am locked out. The missus said she is not letting me back in if I come in late, and I'm coming in well late. Yeah, it'd be one of those. I can't even ring her now.
Wow.
She'll be vexed because she'll wake up, she's got to go work.
But yeah,
damn.
Much appreciate for your time.
Pleasure, man. I enjoyed it loads.
Thank you, Trevor.
So much.
Thank you, mate. Let's do it again.